at a friend's party in front of everyone. My wife laughed and said, "Don't you get it? You're not my first choice." "You're just the reliable option," I replied calmly. "You're right." I stood up, walked past them, got into my car, and didn't look back even once. She thought she had won. That evening, her friend, suddenly, the living room smelled like expensive wine and cheap laughter. You know, that particular scent, the kind that comes when people who think they're sophisticated drink bottles they can't quite pronounce and pretend they understand the notes of oak and blackberry. Sarah's friend Monica was hosting one of her famous dinner parties, the kind where everyone dressed just a bit too formally for what was supposed to be casual, where conversations felt more like performances than actual human connection. I should have known something was wrong when Sarah spent 3 hours getting ready. 3 hours for Monica's apartment. Monica, who still had that IKEA furniture from college and whose idea of ambiance was dimming the overhead lights and calling it mood lighting. But Sarah had changed her dress 4 times, redone her makeup twice, and actually asked me if I thought her earrings were trying too hard. I'd said they were perfect. They always were. She was always perfect. I was sitting on Monica's sectional sofa, the kind that's supposed to seat 8 but really only comfortably fits 5, wedged between Tom from Sarah's work and his wife, whose name I'd forgotten for the 3rd time that evening. The conversation had drifted, as it always did at these things, to that peculiar territory where people compare their life choices like they're trading stocks. Who bought property when? Who switched careers at the right moment? Who married up? Who married down? Who married their college sweetheart, and was that romantic or just lazy? Sarah was across the room, perched on the arm of an accent chair, wine glass dangling from her fingers like she'd seen someone do in a movie once. She'd been laughing more than usual. Louder. The kind of laugh that made you turn and look, made you wonder what could possibly be that funny. Monica had just finished telling some story about her sister's disastrous wedding bridesmaid dress caught in a car door. Entire side panel ripped off as the limo pulled away, and everyone was wiping tears from their eyes. Clutching their stomachs, performing the theater of finding something absolutely hilarious. That's when Marcus spoke up. Marcus was Monica's husband, one of those men who thought volume was a substitute for charisma, who believed that if he talked loud enough and often enough, people would mistake his opinions for facts. He was on his 4th glass of wine, his face flushed red like a lobster slowly boiling itself. "You know what's funny?" Marcus said, not waiting for anyone to ask what. "His marriage choices, like the reasons people get married, it's never really about love, is it? It's about timing and convenience. And, what's that word? Compatibility." He said compatibility like it was a dirty word, like it was something you'd find stuck to the bottom of your shoe. Sarah's laugh cut through the room, sharp, musical, dangerous. "Oh my God, Marcus." "Yes," she said, leaning forward, her wine threatening to spill. "Like, can we please be honest about this for once?" I felt something shift in my chest, a subtle wrongness, like the moment before you realize you've taken a wrong turn, but you haven't quite accepted it yet. The room had gotten quieter. Everyone was watching Sarah now, drawn to her the way people are drawn to accidents on the highway, not wanting to look, but unable to turn away. "I mean, seriously," Sarah continued. And there was something in her voice I'd never heard before. Or maybe I had heard it, in private moments, in arguments whispered behind closed doors, but never performed like this, never weaponized in public. We act like every marriage is this epic love story, but come on, most of us just settled. "Sarah," Monica said, but it was a weak protest, easily ignored. "No, really," Sarah said, turning to look directly at me. Our eyes met across the room, and I saw something there I couldn't quite name. Challenge, cruelty, truth. Take us, for example. The room went silent. Even Marcus stopped mid-sip. Everyone always asks how we met, right? And I tell them the story. Coffee shop, spilled latte, very rom-com, very cute. But you know what nobody asks? Why I said yes? Why I married him. She gestured at me with her wine glass, a sloppy movement that sent a drop of red onto Monica's beige carpet. Nobody noticed. Or if they did, They didn't care. "Want to know the truth?" Sarah asked the room, though her eyes never left mine. I should have stood up then, should have made a joke, changed the subject, pulled her aside and asked what the hell she was doing. But I didn't. I just sat there, Tom's elbow pressing into my ribs, frozen in place like a rabbit in headlights. "The truth is," Sarah said, her voice dropping to something almost tender, almost kind, which somehow made it worse. "He wasn't my first choice. Not even close. There was someone before him, God. There was someone who made me feel alive in ways I can't even describe. But that person was chaos. Beautiful, intoxicating chaos. And I knew that if I stayed, I'd burn up completely." She paused, took a sip of wine, savored it. "So I chose safety instead. I chose the guy who showed up on time, who remembered birthdays, who had a stable job and a retirement plan and all those wonderfully boring, reliable qualities. I chose," she smiled, and it was the saddest, cruelest smile I'd ever seen. "I chose the reliable option." The words hung in the air like smoke. Tom shifted beside me. Someone coughed. Monica made a sound like she was about to say something, stopped, tried again, failed. Sarah was still looking at me, waiting. Waiting for what? For me to explode? To cry? To beg her to take it back? To explain that she didn't mean it? That the wine was talking? That this was all some terrible joke? I felt remarkably calm, eerily calm. The kind of calm that comes when the thing you've been afraid of your whole life finally happens, and you realize you're still breathing, still existing, still taking up space in the world. "Don't you get it?" Sarah said, and now there was something desperate in her voice, like she needed me to understand, needed me to react. "You're not my first choice. You're just the reliable option." I stood up slowly, set my beer bottle on the coffee table with a soft click that sounded impossibly loud in the silence. Tom and his wife scrambled to make room, like I was contagious, like whatever I had might spread. "You're right," I said. 2 words. That's all I gave her. I walked across Monica's living room, my footsteps muffled by her discount area rug, walked past the dining table, still cluttered with dessert plates and half-eaten tiramisu, walked past Sarah, who had turned to watch me, her expression shifting from triumphant to confused to something that might have been the first spark of fear. I collected my coat from the pile by the door, found my keys in the pocket, opened the door to Monica's apartment, letting in a blast of October air that smelled like rain and dead leaves and possibility. "Wait," Sarah said behind me. "That's it? That's all you have to say?" I turned back, just for a moment. Just long enough to see all of them, Marcus with his mouth hanging open, Monica gripping her wine glass like a life preserver, Tom and his wife huddled together like they were watching a horror movie, and Sarah, standing now, her face pale beneath her carefully applied makeup. "I'll sleep at the hotel on 5th, I said. Not to Sarah, really, just to the room. Just to make it clear, I wouldn't be coming home. The Marriott. Room will be under my name." "You're being ridiculous," Sarah said, but her voice had lost its edge. Now she just sounded uncertain, maybe even scared. "I was just being honest. Isn't that what you always wanted? Honesty?" "I did," I said. "Thank you for that." And then I left, closed the door behind me with a soft click that felt like an ending. The hallway of Monica's apartment building was ugly in that way, that expensive buildings often are: beige walls, fluorescent lighting, a faint smell of cleaning products, trying to mask the scent of too many people living too close together. My footsteps echoed as I walked to the elevator, pressed the button, waited. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. I stepped inside. I didn't look back. Not when I heard the apartment door open behind me. Not when I heard Sarah's voice calling my name down the hallway, that edge of panic finally breaking through. Not when the elevator doors closed, cutting off her words mid-sentence. In the parking garage, I sat in my car for a moment before starting the engine. My hands were steady on the steering wheel. My breathing was even. I felt nothing and everything simultaneously empty and overfull, broken and strangely whole. I started the engine, pulled out of the parking space, drove up the spiral ramp and out into the October night, where the first drops of rain were starting to fall, spattering against my windshield like tears. I wasn't crying. My phone started ringing before I'd even reached the main road. Sarah's face filled the screen. A photo from our honeymoon, both of us sun-drunk and happy on a beach in Maui, her head on my shoulder, both of us squinting into the sun like we were trying to see the future, and finding it bright, so bright, I let it ring. Watched her name flash and fade, until finally it went silent. Then it started again, and again. I turned the phone face down on the passenger seat and drove. The Marriott on Fifth was one of those mid-range hotels that businessmen use for conferences and families use when visiting relatives they don't like enough to stay with. The night clerk was a college-aged kid with acne and exhaustion written all over his face. He barely looked up when I asked for a room. "One night?" he asked, fingers already moving over his keyboard. "I don't know yet," I said. "Start with 1. He handed me a key card. Room 412. Told me breakfast was from 6 to 10, checkout was at noon, Wi-Fi password was on the card. The room was exactly what you'd expect. Queen bed with sheets that smelled like industrial detergent, desk with a chair, TV bolted to the wall, bathroom with miniature toiletries and towels folded into aggressive triangles. A window that looked out over the parking lot where the rain was falling harder now, turning the asphalt into a mirror that reflected the streetlights in fractured, beautiful patterns. I sat on the edge of the bed, took out my phone. 17 missed calls, 11 text messages. I didn't read them. Not yet. Instead, I opened my photo gallery, scrolled back through the images until I found what I was looking for, a picture I'd taken 6 months ago at another party, another gathering of Sarah's friends. In this photo, Sarah was laughing at something Marcus was saying, her head thrown back, her hand on his arm. Just a casual touch, just friendly. But if you looked closely, and I had looked closely, so many times over the past 6 months, you could see the way Marcus was looking at her. You could see the way she was leaning into him, just slightly, just enough. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was seeing things that weren't there, that marriage was about trust, and trust meant giving people the benefit of the doubt. But doubt, it turns out, sometimes knows things that trust refuses to see. My phone buzzed. Another text from Sarah. "Please come back. We need to talk." "I didn't mean it like that. You're being crazy." Then another. "Fine. Stay at your hotel. Be dramatic. But we're talking about this tomorrow." Then a third message. This one from a number I didn't recognize. "You left before the good part." I stared at those 6 words. Read them again. Again. Before I could decide whether to respond, another message appeared. "Sarah's friend Melissa here. Monica gave me your number. That thing you suspected about Sarah and Marcus? I have proof, if you want it. No judgment either way." I sat in that hotel room, rain drumming against the window, the TV silent and dark, my phone glowing in my hand like a bomb waiting to detonate. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt curious. Not hurt, not betrayed, not even angry, not really. Just deeply, intensely curious about what proof Melissa had and why she'd chosen tonight of all nights to offer it to me. I typed back, "What kind of proof?" 3 dots appeared immediately. She was typing. I waited. The response came through. The kind that would hold up in court. "Meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m., coffee shop on 7th and Main. You know the one." I did know the one. It was where Sarah and I had met, 7 years ago, where I'd spilled a latte down her white blouse and spent 20 minutes apologizing while she laughed and told me accidents happened, where I'd asked for her number while she blotted coffee stains with napkins, and she'd said yes, and I'd felt like the luckiest man alive. "I'll be there," I typed back. I set my phone aside, lay back on the hotel bed, still fully dressed, and stared at the ceiling where shadows moved like ghosts. Outside, the rain fell harder, washing the city clean, drowning out all the noise, leaving only silence and the steady rhythm of water against glass. And somewhere across town, in Monica's apartment, Sarah was probably still trying to explain herself. still trying to make everyone understand that she'd just been honest, just been real, just been saying out loud what everyone else was too polite to admit. She thought she'd won, thought she'd drawn first blood, thought that honesty was a weapon she could wield without consequences. Tomorrow, at a coffee shop where our story began, I would learn exactly how wrong she was. But tonight I just lay in the dark and listened to the rain and felt something like peace settle over me for the first time in months. The reliable option was no longer available. And that, I realized as sleep finally began to pull me under, was perfectly fine. I woke up to sunlight cutting through cheap hotel curtains like a knife through water, sharp, precise, impossible to ignore. For a moment, I didn't remember where I was. The ceiling was wrong. The sounds were wrong. Everything smelled like strangers and industrial cleaning solutions. Then it all came flooding back. Sarah's voice, that terrible laugh, the words that hung in the air like a verdict. You're just the reliable option. My phone was face down on the nightstand, exactly where I'd left it, before finally falling asleep around 3 in the morning. I picked it up, squinting against the brightness of the screen. 32 missed calls, 27 text messages, 3 voicemails. I didn't listen to them. Not yet. Instead, I lay there for a while, watching dust particles dance in the shaft of sunlight coming through the gap in the curtains, and I thought about reliability. About what it meant to be someone's safe choice, their fallback plan, their insurance policy against a more exciting life they were too afraid to live. When did I become that person? I'd asked myself this question before, usually at 3 in the morning when Sarah was asleep beside me and I was staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out why something that should feel right felt increasingly wrong. But I'd always pushed the question away, buried it under layers of rationalization and hope and the belief that all marriages went through rough patches, that commitment meant staying even when things got hard. Now, lying in a hotel room that cost $98 a night plus tax, I let myself actually examine the question. The answer, when it came, was simple and devastating. I'd become the reliable option the moment I decided that being chosen was enough. That being wanted, even as a second choice, even as a backup plan, was better than being alone. My alarm went off at 8:30. I silenced it, showered in water that never quite got hot enough, and put on the same clothes from last night because I hadn't thought to pack a bag. The man in the mirror looked tired but calm, resolved, like someone who'd made a decision in his sleep and woken up certain of it. I ordered coffee from the hotel lobby, burnt and bitter, the way hotel coffee always is, and sat in my car in the parking lot, watching the city wake up around me. People heading to work, living their lives, carrying their own quiet burdens and secret betrayals. How many of them, I wondered, were reliable options? How many were first choices? And did it matter, in the end, if you never knew which one you were? My phone buzzed. Sarah's name appeared on the screen with a text message. "Where are you? You didn't come home. I'm worried. Can we please just talk?" I stared at those words, worried, as if concern could erase what she'd said, as if anxiety could rewrite history. I didn't respond. Another message came through, this time from my sister Rachel. "Sarah called me, said you guys had a fight and you left. You okay? Call me when you can." So Sarah was reaching out to my family now, building her narrative, framing the story in a way that made her the concerned wife, and me the dramatic husband who overreacted to nothing. I could see it playing out: the phone calls to my parents, to our mutual friends, the carefully constructed version of events where she was just being honest and I was being sensitive. I typed back to Rachel, "I'm fine, we'll call you later. Don't believe everything you hear." At 9:45, I drove to 7th and Main. The coffee shop was called Brennan's, one of those places that had been there forever, that had somehow survived the gentrification of downtown by being exactly what it always was: decent coffee, comfortable chairs, walls covered in local art that nobody ever bought. The same owner, Michael Brennan, still worked the counter most mornings, still remembered regular customers' orders, still made small talk about the weather and the Seahawks and whatever local controversy was dominating the news cycle. I'd proposed to Sarah here. Not at our table where we first met that felt too obvious, too scripted, but outside, on the sidewalk, on a Tuesday morning in March, when the rain had finally stopped and everything smelled like wet concrete and possibility. I'd had the ring in my pocket for 3 weeks, waiting for the perfect moment, and then I'd realized that the perfect moment was just this: her, me, coffee, the city waking up around us. She'd said yes immediately, laughed, kissed me, and then this was the part I'd always loved about the story. She'd pulled back and said, "You know, I would have said yes anyway, right? Even without the romantic location and the perfect timing. You know that?" I'd believed her then. Melissa was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with a view of the door. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 26, 27, with dark hair pulled into a messy bun and the kind of face that looked perpetually skeptical of everything. She was wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweater, holding a cup of tea with both hands like she was trying to absorb its warmth. I'd seen her before, at Sarah's work events. Melissa Chen, junior account manager, the one who was always quiet at parties, always standing slightly apart from the group, watching. Sarah had mentioned her a few times, usually dismissively. "Melissa's fine, just a little intense. You know the type. Takes everything too seriously." Now, looking at her across the coffee shop, I wondered what Sarah had meant by that. What Melissa had taken seriously, that Sarah had preferred to ignore. I bought a coffee I didn't want and sat down across from her. "Thank you for meeting me," Melissa said. Her voice was soft, but steady, direct. "I know this is strange. I almost didn't reach out." "Why did you?" I asked. She looked at me for a long moment, like she was trying to decide something. Then she set down her tea and pulled out her phone. "Because," she said, "I've been watching this happen for 8 months. Watching Sarah lie to you. Watching Marcus lie to Monica. Watching everyone at work whisper about it while pretending not to know. And I thought," she paused, swallowed. "I thought if I were you, I'd want to know the truth, even if it hurt, especially if it hurt." "What truth?" I asked, though I think I already knew. Had known, maybe for months. Had felt it in the way Sarah's late nights at the office had increased. In the way she'd started keeping her phone face down on tables. In the way she'd stopped asking me about my day and started spending more time in the bathroom with the door locked, the water running. Melissa unlocked her phone and pulled up a folder. Last year, the company did a team-building retreat in Portland. 3 days, all expenses paid, supposedly focused on synergy and collaboration and all that corporate bullshit. Sarah and Marcus were both there. So was I. She scrolled through photos, conference rooms, group dinners, someone's terrible karaoke performance. Then she stopped on one image, expanded it, slid the phone across the table to me. It was dark, taken from a distance, slightly blurry the way photos get when you're trying not to be noticed, but clear enough. Sarah and Marcus, outside what looked like a hotel, her hand in his, both of them laughing about something. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m. "That's the first night," Melissa said quietly. "I couldn't sleep. Went down to the hotel bar for tea. Saw them coming in through the side entrance, the one that leads to the guest rooms. Together." She took the phone back, scrolled further. More photos, more timestamps. 2 in the morning, Marcus, leaving Sarah's hotel room, looking back over his shoulder. The next morning, Sarah, wearing the same dress from the night before at breakfast, sitting next to Marcus, both of them with coffee and that particular kind of exhaustion that comes from not sleeping for the right reasons. "I didn't know what to do," Melissa said. "It wasn't my business, right? Maybe they were just working late. Maybe I was reading into things. So I didn't say anything. Told myself I was being paranoid." "But you weren't," I said. "No," she agreed. "I wasn't." She showed me more. Screenshots of expense reports, hotel rooms charged to the company card at odd hours, calendar entries that didn't quite match up. Sarah claiming she was meeting clients on nights when those clients' calendars showed they were in different cities entirely. And then the text messages. "Marcus's wife, Monica," Melissa said, "works in HR at a different company. Same building, different floor. We're friends." Became friends, anyway. After I started to suspect. She'd been noticing things too, Marcus coming home late, being secretive with his phone, that kind of thing. About 3 months ago, she asked me point blank if I thought Marcus was cheating. What did you tell her? The truth. That I didn't know for sure, but I had suspicions. She asked if I'd help her find out. Melissa pulled up a new folder on her phone. This one was labeled M, Evidence. Monica has access to their cell phone records, their shared plan. She pulled everything from the last 8 months and sent it to me. I helped her analyze it. The patterns were obvious once you knew what to look for. She showed me spreadsheets, call logs, text message, timestamps, location data pulled from phone GPS, Sarah's phone and Marcus's phone, in the same location, over and over again. Thursday nights at a hotel downtown, Tuesday afternoons at Marcus's office when Monica was teaching her evening yoga class, weekend mornings at coffee shops in neighborhoods neither of them had any business being in. The evidence was meticulous, damning, incontrovertible. I felt nothing. That was the strangest part. I sat there, in Brennan's coffee shop, looking at proof that my wife had been having an affair for 8 months, and I felt nothing but a cold, distant curiosity. Like I was reading about someone else's life. Why tell me? I asked finally. Why not just give this to Monica? Monica already has it, Melissa said. She's known for 2 weeks. She's been waiting for the right moment, consulting with a divorce lawyer, getting her ducks in a row. She paused. But you didn't know. You didn't even suspect, did you? I suspected, I said quietly. I just didn't want to believe it. Melissa nodded like she understood. Maybe she did. Last night, she said, when Sarah said that thing about you being the reliable option, about choosing safety over passion, I saw your face. I saw the way you just stood up and left, and I thought, this man deserves to know what he's really dealing with. He deserves to make decisions based on facts, not gaslighting. She pulled an envelope from her bag, plain white, unsealed. This is everything, she said. Printed copies of the photos, the text logs, the expense reports, the location data. Enough to prove adultery in court, if it comes to that. Monica has copies, I have copies, and now you have copies. I took the envelope. It was heavier than I expected. The weight of truth, I suppose. The burden of knowing. There's one more thing, Melissa said. And now there was something different in her voice. Something harder. Yesterday afternoon, before the party, Sarah and Marcus met at his office. They thought everyone had gone home. But I was still there, finishing a presentation. I heard them talking. I recorded it. She pulled up an audio file on her phone. Hit play. Sarah's voice came through the speaker, tinny but clear. Think we should tell them. Both of them. Just get it over with. Marcus's voice, lower, cautious. Are you insane? Monica would destroy me in a divorce. And your husband? He'd be devastated. Why rock the boat? Because I'm tired of lying. I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of going home to someone who bores me just because he's stable and safe. Marcus laughed. It was an ugly sound. That's what you like about him, though. The stability, the reliability. He's not going anywhere. He's your safety net. Exactly. Which is why I can keep doing this. He doesn't suspect anything. He trusts me completely. It's almost too easy. There was a pause. Then Marcus, you're terrible, you know that? You love it. There is the mare play unders. The audio cut off. I sat there, holding the envelope, staring at Melissa's phone, where Sarah's voice had just echoed through the coffee shop. The barista was making someone's latte. The espresso machine hissed and gurgled. Outside, traffic moved past in an endless stream. The world kept turning, kept moving, kept existing, while mine reorganized itself around this new information. I'm sorry, Melissa said. I know it's a lot. It's not, I said. And I meant it. It wasn't a lot. It was just the truth. The truth was often simple, even when it was devastating. Thank you for this, for caring enough to tell me. She nodded, looked relieved. What are you going to do? That was the question, wasn't it? What was I going to do with this envelope full of evidence, this proof of betrayal, this documentation of 8 months of lies? The old me, the reliable option, the safe choice, the man who'd believed that love was enough if you just tried hard enough, that version of me would have probably tried to work it out. Would have confronted Sarah, gone to couples therapy, tried to understand what he'd done wrong, how he'd failed to keep her interested, what he could change to make her choose him first instead of settling for him. But that version of me had died last night in Monica's living room, the moment Sarah laughed and told a room full of people that I was her backup plan. This version of me, the one sitting in Brennan's coffee shop with evidence of adultery in his hands, this version had different priorities. "I'm going to think," I said. "And then I'm going to act." Melissa smiled. It was small and sad, but genuine. "Good," she said. "That's good." She stood up, gathered her things. "Monica's filing for divorce next week. She wanted me to tell you that if you want to coordinate, for legal purposes, her lawyer is willing to talk to your lawyer. Sometimes these things are easier when the wronged parties present a united front." "Tell her thank you," I said. "I'll be in touch." After Melissa left, I sat there for a while, holding the envelope, drinking terrible coffee, watching the city move past the window. I thought about 7 years of marriage, about trust and betrayal and the million small moments that add up to a life. About the night I proposed on this sidewalk and Sarah said yes. She'd say yes anywhere. She'd say yes in a parking lot or a laundromat or the DMV, because it wasn't about the place, it was about us. Except it had never been about us, had it? It had been about her needing something stable while she chased something exciting. About her wanting a home base while she had her adventures. About her choosing safety because she was too afraid to choose passion, and then resenting me for being what she'd chosen. My phone buzzed. "Sarah again. Please, just tell me where you are. I need to see you. I need to explain." I looked at that message for a long time. Then I opened the envelope Melissa had given me, pulled out the photos, the spreadsheets, the printed text logs, spread them across the table like a map of betrayal, like evidence of a crime I hadn't known I was investigating. And I took photos. Clear, well-lit photos of every single piece of evidence. Uploaded them to a cloud drive. Sent copies to an email address I'd created just for this purpose. Made sure everything was backed up, documented, preserved. Then I gathered it all back up, put it back in the envelope, and tucked it safely in my jacket pocket. I had one more stop to make before I decided what to do next. I needed to see a lawyer. Not to file for divorce, not yet, but to understand my options, to know what this evidence meant in legal terms, to prepare for whatever came next. Because Sarah had made a choice last night. She'd chosen to wound me publicly, to humiliate me in front of people who'd pretend to be sympathetic while secretly enjoying the drama. She'd thought she'd won. Thought she'd put me in my place. Thought the reliable option would just take it. Would come home with his tail between his legs, would accept his role as the boring husband she could cheat on with impunity. She was wrong. I stood up, threw away my empty coffee cup, and walked out of Brennan's into the bright October morning. The rain from last night had washed everything clean. The sky was that particular shade of blue that comes after storms. The air smelled fresh and new and full of possibility. I got in my car, pulled out my phone, and searched for family law attorneys in my area. The first appointment was available at 2 o'clock. I booked it. Then, I finally listened to Sarah's voicemails. All 3 of them. They progressed from confused to angry to desperate, her voice getting higher and tighter with each one. The last one ended with her saying, "Fine, if you're going to be childish about this, stay gone. See if I care." I saved them all, added them to my evidence folder. Then I drove to the law offices of Patterson and Reed, where a woman named Jennifer Patterson was about to explain to me exactly how much it was going to cost Sarah to call me her reliable option. The truth, I was learning, had a price, and I was more than willing to make her pay it. The law offices of Patterson and Reed occupied the 14th floor of a glass building downtown, the kind of place where the elevator smelled like expensive cologne and the reception area had art that was probably original. Jennifer Patterson's assistant, a young man with perfect posture and a voice like warm honey, offered me water, coffee, or tea while I waited. I declined all three. My stomach had been in knots since leaving Brennan's, and I didn't trust it with anything more than the hotel coffee I'd already subjected it to. The walls were lined with diplomas and awards. Jennifer Patterson had graduated from Yale Law. She'd been practicing for 15 years. She specialized in high-net-worth divorces and had a reputation, according to the Google search I'd done in the parking lot, for being absolutely ruthless when it came to protecting her clients' interests. Perfect. Mr. Castellano. The assistant appeared again, smiling. Miss Patterson, we'll see you now. In fact, Miss Patterson, we'll see you now. Jennifer Patterson's office was corner-facing with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 40s, with silver starting to thread through her dark hair, and the kind of face that probably smiled rarely but meant it when it did. She stood when I entered, extended her hand, shook mine with a grip that was firm without being aggressive. Please, sit, she said, gesturing to one of the leather chairs across from her desk. You mentioned on the phone that you needed to discuss divorce proceedings. Can you tell me a bit about your situation? I'd practiced this in the car. Thought about how to explain it, what details mattered, what order to present them in. But now, sitting in this office with the city spread out behind her like a witness, the words came out differently than I'd planned. Last night, I said, at a party my wife told a room full of people that I wasn't her first choice, that I was just the reliable option. The safe choice she made, because the person she really wanted was too chaotic, too risky. She said this casually, like it was funny. Like it was a joke. Everyone would understand. Jennifer's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. Recognition, maybe. She'd probably heard 1,000 versions of this story, sitting in this office, listening to people describe the moment their marriages ended. And this morning, I continued, pulling out the envelope Melissa had given me, I received this. I laid it all out on her desk, the photos from Portland, the expense reports, the call logs, and text message timestamps. The location data showing Sarah's phone and Marcus's phone in the same places, at the same times, over and over again, for 8 months. Jennifer put on reading glasses and examined each piece of evidence methodically, her face betraying nothing. She picked up one of the photos Sarah and Marcus outside the hotel, hands linked, and studied it for a long moment. This is comprehensive, she said finally. Whoever compiled this knew what they were doing. May I ask where you got it? A co-worker of my wife's, I said. She's friends with the other man's wife. They've been investigating independently. The wife is filing for divorce next week. Jennifer nodded slowly. And you want to file as well? I want to understand my options, I said. I want to know what this evidence means, what it's worth, what it can do. She leaned back in her chair, removed her glasses, looked at me with an expression that was both kind and calculating. In Washington state, we're a no-fault divorce state. That means adultery doesn't technically matter for the divorce itself. You don't need to prove wrongdoing to end a marriage. However, she held up a finger. It can absolutely matter for asset division, spousal support, and if there are any custody issues. No, kids, I said. We talked about it. She always said she wasn't ready. Now I wonder if she was just waiting to see how things played out with Marcus. Jennifer made a note on her legal pad. Tell me about your assets. What are we looking at in terms of property, savings, investments? I walked her through it. The house bought 5 years ago. Both our names on the mortgage, but I'd paid the down payment for my inheritance when my grandfather died. The car's mine paid off. Hers still being financed. Savings accounts, retirement funds, investment portfolios. I'd always been good with money, always saved, always planned for the future. Sarah spent more freely, liked nice things, liked the appearance of wealth even when it meant carrying credit card debt. Combined net worth approximately $850,000, Jennifer said, writing it down. With the majority of liquid assets in accounts you contributed to, the house has how much equity? About $200,000, I said. Market's been good to us. And your income versus hers? I make about $120,000 a year as a senior software engineer. She makes $85,000 in account management. Jennifer nodded, made more notes. Here's what you need to understand. In a normal divorce, Washington state presumes that all assets acquired during the marriage are community property and should be divided equitably, which usually means equally. However, equitably doesn't always mean equally, especially when one party has engaged in behavior that wastes community assets or acts in bad faith. She tapped the expense reports. These hotel charges, if she used community funds, joint credit cards, shared accounts to facilitate an affair, that's what we call dissipation of assets. You can argue that she wasted marital resources on an extramarital relationship and therefore should receive less in the final division. How much less? That depends on how much she spent, how egregious the behavior was, and how good your attorney is at making the argument. But we're potentially talking about tens of thousands of dollars in adjustment. She paused. There's also the matter of spousal support. Normally, with your income differential and the length of your marriage, she might have an argument for alimony. But adultery, while not grounds for divorce, can be a factor in determining whether spousal support is just under the circumstances. I felt something shift in my chest. Not quite satisfaction, not yet, but possibility. The understanding that there were consequences, that actions had weight, that betrayal wasn't just emotional damage but financial liability. What would you recommend? I asked. Jennifer leaned forward, her hands clasped on the desk. I'd recommend we file immediately, before she has a chance to move assets or establish her own narrative. We go in strong, full disclosure of the affair, documentation of dissipated assets, request for favorable division of property based on her misconduct. We make it clear from the start that you have evidence, that you're not going to roll over, and that any attempt to paint herself as a victim, or you as unreasonable, will be met with facts. How long does this take? 90 days minimum from filing to finalization, assuming she doesn't contest. If she fights it, Jennifer shrugged. 6 months, a year, depends on how ugly she wants to make it. She'll make it ugly, I said with certainty. She doesn't like losing. Nobody does, Jennifer said. But the question isn't whether she likes it. The question is whether she can afford it. Divorce litigation is expensive. If she wants to fight over every asset, every piece of furniture, every shared book on the shelf, she's going to spend tens of thousands in legal fees. And if we can prove she dissipated assets, she might end up paying your legal fees too. She pulled out a retainer agreement, slid it across the desk. My retainer is $10,000. That covers initial filing, discovery, and preliminary negotiations. If we go to trial, there are additional costs. But most cases settle before trial once both parties see the evidence and do the math. I looked at the number. $10,000 to end a 7-year marriage. It seemed simultaneously too much and not nearly enough. I'll do it, I said. When can we file? I can have papers drawn up by Monday. We file Tuesday morning. She'll be served by Wednesday. Jennifer's expression softened slightly. I know this is difficult, but you're doing the right thing. Nobody deserves to be someone's backup plan. I signed the retainer agreement, wrote a check, shook her hand again. One more thing, Jennifer said as I was leaving. Don't communicate with your wife except through text or email. Nothing in person, nothing on phone calls that aren't recorded. If she wants to talk, tell her to have her attorney contact me. And whatever you do, don't leave that hotel until we file. Don't go back to the house. Don't pick up your things. Don't give her any ammunition to claim you abandoned the marital residence. Understood, I said. And Mr. Castellano? She smiled, and it was fierce and sharp and somehow reassuring. We're going to make sure you're more than taken care of. Trust the process. I left her office feeling something I hadn't felt in years. I felt powerful. Not in a loud, aggressive way, but in a quiet, certain way. The way you feel when you know you're right, when you have evidence on your side, when you've stopped asking for permission to protect yourself. My phone had been buzzing periodically throughout the meeting. I checked it in the elevator, 14 new messages. 9 from Sarah. 3 from my mother. Apparently Sarah had called her now too. 2 from mutual friends asking if everything was okay. Sarah's messages had evolved. The first few were still trying to sound reasonable. Can we please just talk like adults? I think you misunderstood what I meant. Then confused. I don't understand why you're being like this. It was just a comment. Everyone makes jokes about marriage. Then angry. You're being completely ridiculous. Grow up and come home. And finally, desperate. I'm scared. Please just tell me where you are. Tell me you're okay. I can't lose you. That last one almost made me laugh. She was scared of losing me now? Now that I'd actually left? When she'd spent 8 months fucking Marcus, she hadn't been scared of losing me. When she'd stood in Monica's living room and called me her backup plan, she hadn't been scared. But now that the reliable option wasn't reliably there, suddenly she was frightened. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I went to the Marriott, checked out, and drove to a different hotel across town, the Hilton on Broadway. Nicer, more expensive, with a gym and a business center, and room service that didn't come from a microwave. If I was going to be living in hotels for the foreseeable future, I might as well be comfortable. The room was on the 8th floor with a view of the water. I could see ferries moving back and forth across Elliott Bay, carrying people to islands and back, their lives continuing in their small, ordinary ways, while mine reorganized itself into something new. I ordered room service, a burger and fries, because I couldn't remember the last time I'd eaten and sat by the window with my laptop. I had work emails to catch up on, projects to manage, code to review, but I couldn't focus on any of it. Instead, I found myself opening old photo albums, scrolling through 7 years of marriage, looking for the moment when everything had gone wrong. Our wedding day, Sarah in white lace, me in a suit I'd spent too much money on. Both of us grinning like idiots because we couldn't believe we'd gotten this lucky. Had she been settling even then? Had she looked at me walking down the aisle and thought, well, he's not my first choice, but he'll do? Our honeymoon in Maui, sunset photos and beach selfies, and that one picture where we're both sunburned and laughing. Had she been comparing me to Marcus even then? Had every moment of apparent happiness been tinged with regret for the exciting life she'd given up? The house, the day we got the keys, standing in our empty living room, talking about paint colors and furniture arrangements and the life we were going to build together. Had she been planning her exit even as we were planning our future? I closed the laptop. This was pointless. You could drive yourself crazy looking for signs you'd missed, for red flags you'd ignored, for moments where everything could have gone differently, if only you'd paid closer attention. The truth was simpler and sadder. Sarah had never wanted me the way I'd wanted her, and I'd known it, somewhere deep down, and I'd chosen to ignore it because being wanted at all felt better than being alone. My phone rang. Not a text this time, an actual call. Sarah's face filled the screen, that photo from Maui. Both of us, so happy, so naive, so convinced we had everything figured out. I let it ring, watched her name flash and fade, waited for it to go to voicemail. When it did, I blocked her number. Then I called my sister, Rachel. She answered on the first ring. Jesus Christ, finally. What the hell is going on? Sarah called me 3 times. She said you had a fight and disappeared and won't answer your phone. She sounds hysterical. I'm fine, I said. Better than fine, actually. What happened? I told her. All of it. The party, Sarah's comment, Melissa's evidence, the lawyer, the divorce filing scheduled for Tuesday. Rachel listened without interrupting, which was unlike her. She was usually the first to offer opinions, to give advice, to tell you what you should do and why you should do it immediately. When I finished, there was a long silence. Holy shit, Rachel said finally. Yeah, I never liked her, Rachel said. I know I never said it, but I didn't. She always seemed, I don't know, like she was doing you a favor by being with you, like she was slumming it. You could have mentioned that before I married her. Would you have listened? Probably not. Love makes you deaf to warnings. Or maybe not love, maybe just the fear of being alone. Maybe just the desire to believe that being chosen, even as a second option, was enough. So what now? Rachel asked. Now I wait. The papers get filed Tuesday. She gets served Wednesday. And then I trailed off, looking out at the water, at the ferries cutting their paths through the gray-blue bay. And then I figure out what my life looks like without her in it. "You're going to be okay," Rachel said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact, delivered with the certainty that only sisters can manage. You're going to be better than okay. You're going to be free. Free. The word hung in the air like a promise. We talked for a while longer. Rachel insisted I come stay with her and her husband. Instead of living in hotels, I told her I needed space and time alone. She made me promise to at least have dinner with them on Sunday. Normal sibling conversation, comforting in its ordinariness. After we hung up, I sat in the hotel room as the afternoon light shifted, as the city moved through its rhythms below me, as my old life ended and my new one hadn't quite begun. Sarah sent one final text before I'd blocked her, and it came through while I was talking to Rachel. I read it now. "I know you're getting these. I know you're reading them. You're being cruel. You're punishing me for being honest, for telling the truth. This is exactly why I needed Marcus, because you're cold, you're emotionless, you can't handle real intimacy. You're proving right now that I was right to look elsewhere. So, fine, stay gone. I don't need you." I read it 3 times. Each time, I felt more relieved, because this was who she really was. Not the woman who cried and begged me to come home. Not the woman who claimed she was scared and couldn't lose me. This was the real Sarah. The one who blamed me for her choices. Who turned her betrayal into my fault. Who couldn't take responsibility for the pain she'd caused. The reliable option was no longer available, and she was about to learn exactly what that meant. I took a screenshot of that message, sent it to Jennifer Patterson with a note. "Additional evidence of character may be useful." Her response came back within minutes. "Very useful. Thank you. See you Tuesday." I ordered a bottle of wine from room service, something expensive that I would never have ordered if Sarah was with me, because she would have said it was wasteful, we should save money. Why spend $80 on wine when we could get something just as good for $20? When it arrived, I poured a glass and stood at the window, watching the sun set over the Olympic Mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple that looked too beautiful to be real. I raised the glass in a silent toast, to truth, to evidence, to consequences, to the moment when the reliable option decided he was worth more than being someone's backup plan. I drank, and it tasted like victory. Or maybe just like expensive wine. Either way, I was done being safe, done being convenient, done being enough for someone who had never truly wanted me at all. Tuesday couldn't come fast enough. Saturday morning arrived with fog so thick you couldn't see the water from my hotel window. The city disappeared into gray-white nothing, sounds muffled, the world reduced to whatever existed within a few feet of where you stood. It felt appropriate. Everything in my life had become obscured, uncertain, waiting to be revealed. I'd slept better than I had in months. No Sarah tossing beside me, stealing blankets, her phone lighting up at 2 in the morning with messages she'd claim were from work. No lying awake wondering why she'd stopped reaching for me in the dark, why sex had become something scheduled and perfunctory, why I felt more alone in bed next to her than I ever did sleeping by myself. The hotel room was silent, except for the hum of the heating system and the distant sounds of the city waking up. I ordered breakfast from room service, eggs Benedict, fresh fruit, coffee that actually tasted like coffee instead of burnt water, and ate by the window, watching the fog slowly burn off as the sun climbed higher. My phone had been blessedly quiet since I'd blocked Sarah's number. A few texts from friends asking if I was okay, if the rumors were true, what had happened at Monica's party. I'd responded to all of them with variations of the same message. Going through some personal stuff. Need some space. Will reach out when I'm ready. Only one person had pushed back. David, my college roommate and the best man at my wedding. He'd called instead of texted, and I'd answered because David never called unless it was important. "Sarah's telling people you had a mental breakdown," he'd said without preamble. "That you're not thinking clearly, that she's worried about your mental health." I'd laughed, actually laughed. Of course she is. She called me at 7 this morning, crying, said you disappeared without warning, that she doesn't know where you are, that you're not responding to anyone. She asked me to help stage an intervention. An intervention for what? Being done with a marriage to someone who's been cheating on me for 8 months? Silence on the other end. Then, Jesus Christ, are you sure? I have photos, David, text logs, hotel receipts, audio recordings. I'm not having a breakdown. I'm having a breakthrough. Another pause. What do you need? That was why David was my best friend. No dramatics, no judgment, no demands for the full story. Just what do you need? I need you to not believe whatever narrative Sarah's spinning. And I need you to tell anyone who asks that I'm fine, I'm safe, and I'm handling my business. Done, he'd said. And when you're ready to talk, actually talk, not just give me the bullet points. I'm here. I know, thank you. Now, sitting with my eggs Benedict going cold, I thought about narratives. About how quickly people construct them, how eagerly they believe them, how rarely anyone questions whether the story they're being told matches reality. Sarah was good at narratives. She'd always been good at telling stories, at framing situations in ways that made her the protagonist, the victim, the misunderstood hero. I'd watched her do it with coworkers, with friends, even with her own family. Any conflict became a story where she was reasonable and everyone else was unreasonable. Any criticism became an attack she had to defend against. I'd been complicit in it, I realize now. Had nodded along when she'd complained about difficult colleagues who were probably just calling her on her bullshit. Had sympathized when she'd fought with her sister over something that, in retrospect, was probably Sarah's fault. Had believed her version of events because it was easier than questioning, easier than seeing her clearly. Well, not anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer Patterson. Papers will be ready Monday afternoon. Plan to meet at 4 p.m. to review and sign. We file first thing Tuesday morning. How are you holding up? I appreciated that she'd asked. Most lawyers probably wouldn't. Surprisingly well, I typed back. Clearer than I've been in years. Good. That clarity will serve you well in the weeks ahead. Enjoy your weekend. Monday we go to work. I spent the rest of Saturday doing things I'd forgotten I enjoyed. I went to a bookstore and browsed for an hour. Bought 3 novels I'd been meaning to read. I walked through Pike Place Market, watched the fish throwers perform for tourists, bought flowers from a vendor just because they were beautiful dahlias in deep purple and burgundy, almost black in the right light. I put them in a water glass in my hotel room where they looked absurd and perfect. I went to a movie by myself, something I hadn't done since college. An action thriller that required zero emotional investment, just explosions and car chases and a plot so thin you could see through it. It was exactly what I needed. And through it all, I felt light, untethered, free in a way I hadn't felt since before I'd gotten married, maybe even before I'd started dating Sarah. Like I'd been carrying weight I didn't know was there until I finally set it down. Around 5 o'clock, I got a text from an unknown number. This is Monica. Melissa gave me your number. I hope that's okay. I wanted to see how you're doing. I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back. I'm okay. Better than expected. How are you? Angry, relieved, terrified. Sometimes all at once. Yeah, I know that feeling. A pause. Then, would you want to meet for coffee? I know this is weird, but I feel like we're in this together, in a strange way. And I don't really have anyone I can talk to about it. I understood that. Who could she talk to? Not their mutual friends. Half of them probably knew about the affair and said nothing. Not her family. Too much shame in admitting your marriage had failed. Your husband had strayed. Not even Melissa, really. Because Melissa was a co-worker and there were boundaries. Sure, I sent back. When and where? There's a coffee shop on Capitol Hill. Victrola. Tomorrow morning at 10, I'll be there. Sunday morning was clear and cold. The kind of November day that makes you grateful for good coffee and indoor heating. Victrola Coffee Roasters was crowded with the weekend brunch crowd couples, sharing pastries, groups of friends laughing over lattes, solo laptop warriors claiming tables for the duration. I found Monica at a corner table. 2 cups, already in front of her. "I got you an Americano," she said as I sat down. "Melissa said, that's what you ordered at Brennan's. I hope that's okay. I didn't want to wait in line twice. It's perfect," I said. "Thank you." Monica looked different than I remembered from the party. Smaller, somehow, more real. At Monica's party, she'd been the hostess, all smiles and small talk and making sure everyone had drinks. Now, she looked tired, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, no makeup, wearing jeans and an oversized sweater that might have been Marcus's once. "I'm filing tomorrow," she said without preamble. "My lawyer said we should coordinate timing, that it looks better if we both file at the same time. Makes it harder for them to claim we're vindictive or crazy or whatever story they try to tell." "I'm filing Tuesday," I said. "My lawyer wanted the papers reviewed first. Tuesday's fine. Close enough." She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup like she was trying to absorb its warmth. "Did you know? Before the party, I mean. Did you suspect?" "I suspected," I admitted, "but I didn't want to know." "Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense," Monica said. "I think I've known for months, maybe longer, but knowing and knowing are different things, aren't they? As long as you don't have proof, you can pretend. You can tell yourself you're being paranoid, that you're inventing problems, that everything's fine. And then you get proof," I said. "And then everything changes." She took a sip of her coffee. Melissa played me the recording, the one from Friday afternoon, before the party. Sarah and Marcus talking about how easy it was to lie to us, how we were too trusting, too comfortable. "I heard it," I said. "The worst part? You want to know the worst part?" Monica's voice cracked slightly. "The worst part is that they were right. We were easy to lie to. We did trust them, and they used that trust as permission to do whatever they wanted." I didn't know what to say to that. She was right. We had made it easy. We'd believe the best of them, because that's what you do in a marriage you trust, until given a reason not to. Except by the time you have a reason, months or years of betrayal have already passed. "Did you love him?" I asked. "Marcus, do you love him?" Monica thought about that for a long time. "I did once. When we first got together, he was different. Funnier. Kinder. Or maybe he wasn't different. Maybe I just saw what I wanted to see." She looked at me directly. "Did you love Sarah?" "Yes," I said. "And it was true. Or it had been true. Or maybe it was still true in some complicated way that didn't change the fact that I couldn't stay married to her. I loved who I thought she was, who she was when we first met, or who she pretended to be. That's the thing nobody tells you about betrayal," Monica said quietly. "It's not just that they cheated, it's that you start questioning everything. Every memory, every moment, every time they said they loved you. You wonder if any of it was real. Was it real for you? Any of it?" She smiled sadly. "Some of it. The early years, before he made partner at his firm, before the pressure and the long hours and the..." She stopped, shook her head. "I'm not making excuses for him. There are no excuses. But I think some of it was real, which somehow makes it worse." We sat in silence for a while, drinking our coffee, watching the cafe move around us. Two people whose lives had imploded in the same moment, brought together by their spouse's shared selfishness. "What will you do?" I asked eventually. "After the divorce? Do you have plans?" "My sister lives in Portland," Monica said. "She's been asking me to move down there for years. I think maybe I will. Start over somewhere new. Somewhere that doesn't have Marcus's fingerprints all over it." She paused. "What about you?" "I don't know yet," I admitted. "I haven't thought that far ahead. Right now, I'm just focused on getting through the filing, the process, the end of it all." "That's smart," Monica said. "One step at a time." She pulled out her phone, scrolled through something, then turned the screen toward me. "Did you see this?" It was Sarah's Instagram. A photo posted last night, Sarah in our living room, looking beautiful and sad in soft lighting. Caption reading, "Going through something difficult right now. Taking time to focus on healing and self-care. Sending love to everyone who's reached out." Your support means everything. 300 likes, 70 comments, all variations of "You're so strong" and "Here for you, babe," and "Whatever you're going through, you've got this." I handed the phone back to Monica. She's building her narrative. They both are, Monica said. She showed me Marcus's Facebook, a vague post about difficult seasons and growth through challenges, and grateful for the people who stand by you. Let them, I said. Let them tell whatever story they want. Tuesday morning, when they get served with divorce papers citing adultery with documented evidence, their narrative's going to fall apart pretty quickly. Monica smiled. It was the first real smile I'd seen from her. I like the way you think. We talked for another hour. About logistics, she'd already moved Marcus's things into the guest room. I'd need to figure out what to do about the house. About lawyers, hers was aggressive but fair. Mine sounded similar. About the strange relief that comes with finally knowing the truth, even when the truth is devastating. When we finally left, Monica hugged me goodbye. "Thank you," she said, "for meeting me, for not thinking this is weird." "It's not weird," I said. "It's survival. We're helping each other survive. Will you let me know how it goes? Tuesday? Of course. You let me know about tomorrow." She nodded, pulled her coat tighter against the cold, and walked away into the November afternoon. I went back to the hotel and spent the rest of Sunday doing nothing. Ordered room service, watched bad TV, read one of the books I'd bought, took a long shower, went to bed early. Tomorrow I'd sign the papers. Tuesday they'd be filed. Wednesday Sarah would be served. And then, well, then we'd see what happened when the reliable options stopped being available. I slept that night without dreaming. Or if I dreamed, I didn't remember it. Woke up Monday morning feeling rested, focused, ready. At 4 o'clock, I walked into Jennifer Patterson's office for the second time in 3 days. The divorce papers were thick, 47 pages of legal language, asset division, requests for equitable distribution adjusted for dissipated marital assets, denial of spousal support based on adultery. Jennifer walked me through each section, explaining what it meant, what we were asking for, what Sarah's likely responses would be. "She's going to be angry," Jennifer said. "Most people are when they're served. But this," she tapped the evidence folder, "this is going to make her furious. Because she can't deny it, can't explain it away, can't make you the villain." "Good," I said. And I meant it. I signed on every line marked with a yellow tab, initialed where required, dated it November 11th, handed the pen back to Jennifer. "It's done," she said. "We file first thing tomorrow. The process server will attempt service at her workplace around noon. If she's not there, he'll try the house in the evening." "She'll be at work," I said. "She's always at work on Tuesdays. Staff meeting at 10, client calls all afternoon." Jennifer nodded. "Perfect. The more public, the better. Harder for her to claim she was blindsided if she's served in front of witnesses." I should have felt guilty about that. About having Sarah served at work, in front of colleagues, with maximum embarrassment. The old me would have felt guilty, would have asked if there was a gentler way, a more private way, a way that preserved her dignity. But the old me had died in Monica's living room. This version understood that Sarah had forfeited her right to gentle treatment when she'd spent 8 months lying to my face. "One more thing," Jennifer said, pulling out another document. "I'm filing a motion for exclusive use of the marital residence pending the divorce. Given that you've been staying in hotels and she's in the house, normally she'd have the advantage. But given her behavior, and the fact that you paid the down payment from your inheritance, we have a good argument that you should have access." "I don't want the house," I said. "Not anymore. Too many memories, all of them contaminated now." "Understood. But for negotiating purposes, it's better to ask for it now. We can always concede it later in exchange for other assets. It gives us leverage." I nodded. This was the game, apparently. Ask for more than you want so you can give some of it back and look reasonable. Treat the dissolution of a 7-year marriage like a business negotiation. Reduce love and betrayal and shared history to line items on a spreadsheet. It felt appropriate. Sarah had treated our marriage like a transaction she'd taken. My stability, my reliability, my trust, and used them to subsidize her affair. Now we'd finish the transaction. Balance the books, close the account. I'll call you tomorrow after she's been served, Jennifer said. Try to relax tonight. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be intense. I'm Climb. 135. I'm Climb. 15. I thanked her, shook her hand, left her office with a strange sense of finality. It was done. The papers were filed. The machine was in motion. By this time tomorrow, Sarah would know that the reliable option had teeth. I went back to the hotel, ordered the most expensive thing on the room service menu, steak and lobster. A meal I never would have ordered if Sarah was with me, because she'd say it was wasteful, we should save money, and ate it slowly, savoring every bite. Then I called Rachel. It's happening, I said when she answered. Tomorrow. How do you feel? I thought about that. How did I feel? Not sad, not angry, not even particularly vindictive. Free, I said finally. I feel free. Good, Rachel said. That's exactly how you should feel. We talked until late, about everything and nothing, the way siblings do when one of them is going through something difficult and needs the comfort of familiar voices. When I finally hung up and turned off the lights, I stood at the window one last time, looking out at the city lights reflecting off the water, the ferries still moving through the darkness, carrying people toward whatever destinations waited for them. Tomorrow, Sarah's destination would find her, and I would finally be free to find mine. Tuesday morning I woke at 6, though I'd been awake since 4:30, watching the darkness slowly lighten into dawn. There's something surreal about knowing your life is about to change irrevocably and all you can do is wait for it to happen. Like standing on a platform watching a train approach, you can see it coming, you can hear it coming, but you can't make it arrive any faster. I went to the hotel gym at 7, ran on a treadmill for 40 minutes, pushing myself harder than I had in months, until my lungs burned and my legs ached and my mind finally stopped spinning through scenarios. Showered, dressed in clothes I'd bought the day before, a new shirt, new jeans, like I was shedding my old skin and growing a new one. At 8:30, Jennifer Patterson texted, "Papers filed at 8:15 a.m. Process server is en route to her workplace. ETA for service, 12:30 p.m. We'll update you when it's done." I stared at that message for a long time. It was real now. Official. The state of Washington recognized that my marriage was ending, that the dissolution had begun, that the person I'd promised forever to was now just another case number in the King County court system. I couldn't go to work, couldn't pretend to care about code reviews and sprint planning and whether we should refactor the authentication module. I'd taken the week off, told my manager I had a family emergency, which was true in a way. My family was ending. That qualified as an emergency. Instead, I drove. No destination, just movement. Through Seattle's morning traffic, past coffee shops and office buildings, where people were living their normal Tuesday lives, unaware that across town, a process server was about to hand my wife documents that would destroy the narrative she'd been building all weekend. I ended up at Discovery Park, walking the trails that wound through forest and meadow toward the bluff overlooking Puget Sound. It was cold, the wind coming off the water sharp enough to make my eyes water. I was underdressed, no hat, no gloves, but the cold felt appropriate, clarifying, real in a way that the past 4 days had felt increasingly surreal. My phone buzzed at 11:47 a.m. Process server reports target acquired. Service in progress. I sat down on a bench overlooking the water, checked my watch. 11:47. Sarah would be in her office, maybe on a call, maybe reviewing the presentation she'd been working on last week, maybe texting Marcus about their next rendezvous. And then a stranger would knock on her door, ask if she was Sarah Castellano, and hand her an envelope that would detonate her carefully constructed world. I waited. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of salt and seaweed. A ferry moved across the sound, small from this distance, its wake spreading out behind it in a perfect V. A couple walked past me holding hands, laughing about something, living a life that hadn't exploded yet. 12:03 p.m. Service completed. Documents delivered and received. She's been informed of her right to respond within 20 days. Process server notes, she became extremely agitated. Security was not required to be called. We'll forward you the service affidavit by end of day. It was done. I sat on that bench for another 20 minutes, not really thinking about anything, just existing in the moment between the before and the after. Then I walked back to my car and drove to a restaurant downtown, a place Sarah and I had never been to, that had no memories attached to it, and ordered lunch. My phone stayed silent until 1:47 p.m. Then it started. First, a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Then, another call, different number, another voicemail. Then texts started flooding in from mutual friends. Dude, what the fuck is going on? Sarah just called me crying. She said, you filed for divorce? Is it true about the affair? People are saying things. Call me as soon as possible, we need to talk. I silenced my phone and put it face down on the table. At 2:15, Monica texted, Marcus was just served at his office. He called me screaming, actually screaming. Said I'm trying to destroy his career. I told him he should have thought of that before he destroyed our marriage. Then I hung up. It felt amazing. I smiled at that, texted back. Sarah was served at 12:03. Haven't heard from her directly yet. Pretty sure she's busy calling everyone we know to tell them her version. Letter. We have evidence. Truth beats narrative every time. I hoped she was right. At 3:30, my phone rang from a number I did recognize, Sarah's mother. I answered because Diane had always been kind to me, had welcomed me into the family, had never treated me like I wasn't good enough for her daughter the way Sarah sometimes did. What is happening? Diane said, without preamble. Sarah just called me hysterical. She said you filed for divorce. She said you won't talk to her. She said you're trying to destroy her. Did she mention why I filed? Silence. Then, she said you misunderstood something she said at a party, that you're being dramatic and vindictive. Is that all she said? Another pause. What else is there? So Sarah hadn't told her mother about the affair. Of course she hadn't. That would require admitting what she'd done, accepting responsibility, facing consequences. Diane, I said carefully, I have evidence that Sarah has been having an affair with a married coworker for 8 months. I have photos, text logs, audio recordings, and expense reports. This isn't about a comment at a party. This is about sustained, deliberate betrayal. I heard her breathing on the other end of the line, processing, deciding whether to believe me or her daughter. I don't believe you, she said finally, but her voice wavered. Sarah would never. I can send you the evidence if you want to see it, but I'm not going to argue about this. I'm not going to defend myself against whatever story Sarah is telling. The truth will come out in the divorce proceedings. I'm sorry you're in the middle of this. I always liked you, but your daughter made choices, and now she's dealing with the consequences. You can't just throw away 7 years of marriage. I'm not the one who threw it away, I said quietly. She did, the moment she started sleeping with someone else. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking. Not from anger, from adrenaline, from the reality of it all settling in. I just told Sarah's mother that her daughter was an adulteress, had blown up whatever relationship I'd had with my in-laws, had burned another bridge in a growing bonfire of relationships that couldn't survive the truth. At 4:17, Sarah finally called me directly. I'd unblocked her number that morning because Jennifer said I needed to document any contact. Let it ring. Watched her name flash on my screen. Sent it to voicemail. The voicemail she left was 6 minutes long. I listened to it in my car, parked in the restaurant parking lot, rain starting to spatter against the windshield. How could you do this to me? Her voice was ragged, broken, furious. How could you serve me at work? Do you know how humiliating that was? Everyone saw. Everyone knows. They're all talking about it. You've destroyed my reputation. You've ruined everything. A pause. The sound of her crying, or trying to cry. It was hard to tell. And this bullshit about an affair? About Marcus? You're insane. You've invented this entire fantasy because you can't handle the fact that I was honest with you about my feelings. You're making things up to justify your own paranoia. This is psychotic behavior. You need help. Another pause. When she spoke again, her voice had shifted, less angry, more calculating. I talked to a lawyer. He said you have no case, that adultery doesn't matter in Washington state, that you're wasting your time and money trying to punish me. He said we should try mediation, that we should talk like adults, instead of doing this through lawyers. So please, please, just call me. Let's fix this. Let's work it out. We can go to therapy. We can figure this out. Don't throw away our marriage because you're hurt and angry. The final minute was more crying, more begging, more promises that she loved me, that she'd made a mistake at the party, that she didn't mean what she'd said, that we could fix this if I'd just come home. She didn't mention Marcus once, except to deny it. I saved the voicemail, sent it to Jennifer Patterson with a note, for the file. Her response? Perfect. Classic Darvo, deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. This will be useful if she tries to claim you're the aggressor. How are you holding up? Better than expected. She's predictable. They usually are. Expect more of the same over the next few days. She'll cycle through anger, denial, bargaining, and blame. Document everything. Respond to nothing. At 6:30, I went back to the hotel. The rain had picked up, drumming against the windows, turning the city into a watercolor painting of lights and reflections. I ordered room service, again Thai food, this time something spicy and complex that Sarah had never liked and ate while watching the news. Protests somewhere, political scandal somewhere else. A local interest story about a dog who'd saved his owner from a fire. The world continuing to turn despite my personal apocalypse. My phone kept buzzing. More calls, more texts, more people wanting to know what was happening, whose side to be on, what version of events to believe. I ignored all of it except one message from David. Sarah showed up at my house. Jessica wouldn't let her in. She's telling everyone, you're having a breakdown, that you need an intervention. She wanted me to help her track you down. I told her to leave and not come back. Just for your information, in case she tries anyone else. Thank you. Sorry you got dragged into this. Don't be. I've never liked liars, and I've never seen you this clear-headed. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. At 8 p.m., Monica called. Have you seen it? She asked. Seen what? Quote, check Sarah's Instagram and Marcus's Facebook. I pulled up Sarah's profile. New post, 30 minutes ago. A photo of her and Marcus from some work event months ago. Both of them smiling, professional, colleagues. The caption, addressing the rumors since apparently people have nothing better to do than gossip. Yes, I'm going through a difficult divorce. No, I did not have an affair. My husband has made serious accusations that are completely false, and I will be fighting them. I'm heartbroken that someone I loved and trusted could try to destroy my reputation out of spite. To my real friends who know me and know my character, thank you for your support. The truth will come out. 400 likes in 30 minutes. Hundreds of comments offering support, expressing shock, calling me every name you could think of. Marcus's post was similar. To everyone asking, no, I did not have an affair with Sarah Castellano. We are work colleagues and friends, nothing more. These accusations are deeply hurtful to both our families. Monica and I are working through our own issues that have nothing to do with Sarah. I won't be commenting further, but I wanted to set the record straight. They coordinated, Monica said. Had to. These posts went up at the same time. They're presenting a united front, denying everything, making us look like the crazy, vindictive exes. Let them, I said. We have evidence. They have social media posts. But people believe social media posts, Monica said. And now I could hear the worry in her voice. They believe whoever tells the best story. And they're telling a good story. Two innocent people being victimized by their paranoid, jealous spouses. Monica, listen to me. I spoke slowly, carefully. In 20 days, Sarah has to file a response to my divorce petition. When she does, it becomes part of the public record. The evidence I submitted, the photos, the text logs, the expense reports, all of it becomes discoverable, available to anyone who requests the court documents. And when that happens, everyone who's commenting on her post right now offering support, they're going to see exactly what kind of person they were defending. You're sure? I'm sure. Jennifer confirmed it. Washington State has pretty open court records for divorce proceedings. The truth will come out. We just have to wait. I hate waiting, Monica said. Me too. But we're good at it, apparently. We waited while they had their affair. We can wait a little longer while they hang themselves. She laughed, a bitter sound. When did you get so ruthless? Last Friday, I said, in Monica's living room, when I realized that being nice and being trusting and being the reliable option had gotten me nowhere except betrayed. We talked for a few more minutes. She told me about Marcus's lawyers. He'd hired someone expensive, someone who specialized in protecting high-earning professionals in divorce proceedings. I told her about Sarah's voicemail. We compared notes like generals planning a campaign, because that's what this was now. Not a marriage ending, a war beginning. At 10 p.m., lying in bed, scrolling through my phone one last time before sleep, I saw that Sarah had posted again. This time it was a throwback photo from our wedding day. Her in her dress, me in my suit, both of us cutting the cake, both of us laughing. The caption, 7 years ago, I married my best friend. Today, that same person is trying to destroy me with lies. I don't know what happened to the man I fell in love with. I'm praying he comes back. Number divorce. Number false accusations. Number heartbroken. I stared at that photo for a long time. Remembered that day. Remembered how happy I'd been. How certain I'd been that I'd found the person I was meant to spend my life with. Remembered the vows we'd made for better or worse, in sickness and health, till death do us part. We'd meant those vows. Or at least I had. Or maybe I hadn't known what they meant. Maybe I'd thought marriage was about love and partnership and growing old together, when really it was just a contract that two people maintained until one of them decided the terms were no longer favorable. I took a screenshot of her post, sent it to Jennifer with the note, "More for the file. She's building a public narrative of being victimized." Jennifer responded immediately. Perfect. Letter. Every post she makes is evidence of her state of mind and her strategy. When we reveal the affair evidence, the contrast between her public claims and the private truth will be devastating. She's digging her own grave. I set my phone on the nightstand, turned off the light, lay in the dark listening to the rain against the window. Somewhere across town, Sarah was probably still posting, still texting friends, still building her story about the crazy husband who'd invented an affair because he couldn't handle honesty. Somewhere else, Marcus was probably doing the same thing, protecting his reputation, his career, his image as a successful professional who would never do something so cliché as sleep with a coworker. And in 20 days, when the court documents became public, when the evidence was no longer just between lawyers but available to anyone who cared to look, their carefully constructed narratives would collapse under the weight of documented truth. I fell asleep thinking about that collapse, anticipating it. Not with vengeance, exactly, but with the quiet satisfaction of someone who knows that the universe, occasionally, provides consequences for people who think they're exempt from them. The reliable option was no longer available, but the evidence was. And evidence didn't lie. Evidence didn't need to be dramatic or emotional or performative. Evidence just was. And sometimes that was enough. The days after Sarah was served blurred together in a strange rhythm of normalcy and chaos. Normal. I worked from the hotel room, attended video meetings, reviewed code, responded to emails. Chaos. My phone exploded with messages from people I hadn't talked to in years, all suddenly invested in my marriage, my mental health, my side of the story. I responded to none of them. Jennifer had been clear. Silence was power. Every word I said could be twisted, reframed, used against me. But silence couldn't be misquoted, couldn't be taken out of context, couldn't become ammunition in Sarah's narrative war. So I stayed silent while Sarah got louder. By Wednesday, she'd posted 3 more times on Instagram. Inspirational quotes about surviving betrayal. Ironic, given the circumstances. Photos of herself looking contemplative and sad in soft lighting. A video of her doing yoga in our living room, talking about finding peace amid the storm and staying centered when people you love attack you. The comment sections were echo chambers of support. Friends telling her she was strong, strangers telling her to stay positive. Everyone agreeing that I was clearly unstable, clearly abusive, clearly the villain in whatever story she was telling. Let them think it. In 14 days, the court records would tell a different story. Thursday morning, I got a call from my boss, Richard. "Hey," he said, his tone carefully neutral. "Just checking in. You said family emergency. Everything okay?" "Getting there," I said. "Should be back in the office next week." "No rush. Take the time you need." A pause. "I heard some things, through the grapevine, about you and Sarah." Of course he had. Sarah worked in marketing for a tech company 3 blocks from my office. Seattle's tech scene was small, incestuous. Everyone knew everyone. The gossip network was faster than fiber optic cable. "What did you hear?" I asked. "That you're getting divorced. That there are allegations on both sides." Richard cleared his throat. "Look, I don't know what's going on, and it's none of my business. But if you need to talk to HR about anything, or if this is affecting your work, just let me know." "It won't affect my work," I said. "I'm handling it." "I know you are. You're one of the most level-headed people I know. Which is why when I heard Sarah's version of events, I figured there had to be more to the story." My attention sharpened. "What's Sarah saying? That you're having some kind of breakdown? That you've accused her of things that aren't true? That she's worried about you?" He paused. For what it's worth, I didn't believe it. "You don't seem like someone having a breakdown. You seem like someone who's done being lied to." "Thank you," I said quietly. "That means more than you know." After we hung up, I sat staring at my laptop screen without seeing it. Sarah was actively trying to destroy my reputation. Calling my boss, probably calling my colleagues, planting seeds of doubt about my mental state and my credibility, building a preemptive defense against whatever evidence might surface. It was smart, in a sociopathic kind of way. If she could convince enough people that I was unstable, unreliable, prone to paranoid delusions, then when the evidence came out, she could claim I'd fabricated it, doctored the photos, faked the text logs, invented the whole affair in my delusional mind. Except she couldn't explain away hotel receipts, couldn't forge expense reports filed with her company, couldn't delete location data from cell phone records that Monica's attorney had already subpoenaed. The evidence was digital, documented, and damning. Friday afternoon, Melissa texted, "Can we talk? Something happened at work." We met at a different coffee shop, this time Cafe Vita in Capitol Hill. Melissa looked exhausted, her usual skeptical expression replaced with something harder, angry. "They're trying to gaslight the entire office," she said as soon as I sat down. "Sarah and Marcus, they've been telling everyone that you and Monica are unstable, that you're both making things up because you're jealous and controlling. They're painting themselves as victims of domestic abuse." Domestic abuse? Sarah told HR that you've been emotionally abusive for years, that you isolated her from friends, that you controlled her finances, that when she finally stood up to you at Monica's party, you snapped and filed for divorce to punish her. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger calculation. Does HR believe her? Some of them do. Others are skeptical. But the problem is that Marcus is a senior partner, and Sarah's good at her job. They have credibility, and you're not there to defend yourself. She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. I tried to tell them the truth, showed them some of the evidence. They said they couldn't get involved in employee personal matters unless there was workplace harassment. Is there? Sarah's been telling people I'm obsessed with her, that I'm the one who invented the affair story because I'm jealous of her relationship with Marcus. She's trying to discredit me before I can discredit her. Will it work? Melissa smiled grimly. Not once Monica's lawyer subpoenas the company records. They can gaslight individuals, but they can't gaslight official documentation. The expense reports exist. The travel records exist. The security footage of them entering and leaving hotels together exists. Truth beats narrative, remember? You sound like Monica. Monica and I have been talking a lot this week. United Front and all that. She pulled out her phone. There's something else. Something I didn't show you before because I wasn't sure if it was relevant. But now that they're both claiming you and Monica are making everything up, I think you need to see this. She pulled up a folder of screenshots. Text messages. Not between Sarah and Marcus. Between Sarah and someone named Jessica. This is Sarah's college roommate, Melissa said. They're still close. Sarah tells her everything. About 6 months ago, Jessica's phone got stolen, and she asked to use the office computer to check her iCloud messages. She forgot to log out, and I may have taken some screenshots before logging her out. She showed me the messages. My hands felt numb holding her phone. Sarah to Jessica, March 15th. I think I'm falling for him, Marcus. I know it's wrong, but I can't help it. He makes me feel alive in a way I haven't felt in years. What about your husband? What about him? He's fine. Stable. Boring. I love him, but I'm not in love with him. You know? It's just now. My Combling. What about him? What about him? What about him? Be careful. You could lose everything. Only if he finds out. And he won't. He trusts me completely. It's almost too easy. I scrolled further. More messages. Sarah describing hotel meetups, complaining about having to go home to me after being with Marcus, laughing about how oblivious I was, planning their next rendezvous. And then, dated last Friday, the day of Monica's party, a message that made everything click into place. I'm going to tell him tonight. Not about Marcus, but about how I really feel. That he was never my first choice. I need him to know where he stands. Maybe it'll wake him up, make him try harder. That seems cruel. It's honest. And if he can't handle honesty, that proves I was right to look elsewhere. I handed the phone back to Melissa. She planned it. The whole thing at the party. It wasn't a slip or the wine talking. She wanted to hurt me. I know, Melissa said softly. I'm sorry. Don't be. This is... I paused, searching for the word. This is clarity. I kept wondering if maybe I'd overreacted. If maybe she really had just said something stupid without thinking. But she planned it. She wanted to wound me publicly and see if I'd fight for her or leave. And you left. And I left. I agreed. Which probably wasn't what she expected. She thought I'd beg, apologize, try to win her back. Instead, I filed for divorce with documented evidence of her affair. Probably not the reaction she wargamed, Melissa said. Can I send you these screenshots? For your lawyer? Please. We sat in silence for a while. The coffee shop was crowded with the Friday afternoon laptop crowd, freelancers and remote workers claiming tables for hours, nursing single cups of coffee while they typed away at whatever project sustained them. Normal people living normal lives that didn't involve evidence folders and divorce lawyers and spouses who planned your humiliation at dinner parties. Do you hate her? Melissa asked suddenly. I thought about that. Did I hate Sarah? No, I said finally. I hate what she did. I hate the lying and the manipulation and the calculated cruelty. But her, I mostly just feel sad for her. She had something real and threw it away for hotel hookups with a man who'll never leave his wife. She traded stability for chaos and convinced herself it was passion. Now she's going to lose everything, trying to protect a lie that was never worth telling. That's very evolved of you. It's very tired of me, I corrected. I'm too exhausted to hate her. Hate requires energy. I don't have any more. My phone buzzed. Are you free tonight? I'm having some people over. Small thing. People who know the truth and are on our side. Thought you might want to be around friendly faces. I showed Melissa the message. You should go, she said. Monica's people are solid. No one there is going to believe Sarah's narrative. And honestly, you probably need to be around humans who aren't your lawyer or me. She had a point. I'd been living in isolation for a week, hotel rooms and coffee shops and solitary walks through the city. Maybe it would be good to be around people who knew the truth, who didn't need me to explain or justify or defend myself. What time? I texted back. 7. My place. Just 8 people. Wine and snacks. And solidarity. I'll be there. Monica's apartment was in Fremont, a neighborhood I'd always liked, quirky and artistic. Full of vintage shops and good restaurants, and the kind of people who put rainbow flags in their windows and voted in every local election. Her building was older, with character, the kind of place that had probably been cheap when she and Marcus first moved in and was now worth a fortune. The apartment itself was surprisingly large, with high ceilings and hardwood floors and built-in bookshelves filled with actual books. 8 people were scattered around the living room when I arrived, wine glasses in hand, conversation flowing. Monica met me at the door. You came. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't, I admitted. But Melissa was right. I needed to be around people. Well, everyone here knows the situation. No one's going to ask awkward questions or make you rehash everything. We're just, she gestured at the room, existing in solidarity. She introduced me around. Her sister Erin, visiting from Portland. Melissa, of course. A couple named David and Priya, who were Monica's neighbors and close friends. A woman named Keiko, who worked in Monica's yoga studio. 2 men, James and Luis, who were Marcus's former college friends until they found out about the affair and immediately cut ties. We knew Marcus in college, James explained when Monica introduced us. He was different then. Or maybe we were all just too young to see the red flags. When we heard what he did, when we saw the evidence Monica showed us, we told him we were done. Some things you don't come back from. How did he take that, I asked. Luis laughed darkly. Called us sanctimonious. Said we didn't understand the pressures of his life. That we couldn't judge him because we weren't married. Didn't have his responsibilities. Classic narcissist response. Everyone else is the problem, never him. We drifted into conversation. Nothing heavy. Nothing focused on the divorces or the affairs. Just people talking about their lives, their work, the new restaurant that opened on 34th, whether the Seahawks had a chance this season. Normal things, human things. It felt surreal and wonderful. Around 9, after the wine had been flowing and the conversation had grown looser, Monica's sister Erin asked the question everyone had probably been thinking but polite enough not to voice. What are you going to do? She asked me. After this is over, after the divorce is finalized and you're officially free of her. I don't know yet, I said honestly. I haven't thought that far ahead. I've been so focused on getting through the process that I haven't planned for what comes after. You should travel, Kiko suggested. Go somewhere you've never been. Somewhere that has nothing to do with her or your marriage. Start fresh. I always wanted to go to Japan, I said. Sarah never wanted to. Said it was too far, too expensive, too complicated with the language barrier. So go to Japan, Priya said simply. You're about to be a single man with no one to answer to. If you want to go to Tokyo or Kyoto or wherever, just go. The idea settled into my mind like a seed. Japan. Cherry blossoms and temples and trains that ran on time. A place where nobody knew me. Nobody knew my story, where I could just be anonymous and foreign and free. I might do that, I said, once everything is settled, once the dust clears. Don't wait for the dust to clear, Monica said. The dust never clears completely. There's always something else to settle, to resolve, to finalize. If you wait for perfect conditions to start living your life again, you'll wait forever. She was right. I could feel that she was right. The evening wound down around 11. People started gathering coats, calling Ubers, saying their goodbyes. I helped Monica clean up stacking wine glasses in the dishwasher, collecting plates with cheese rinds and cracker crumbs, the small domestic tasks that feel grounding after hours of conversation. Thank you for inviting me, I said as I was leaving. I needed this more than I realized. We're going to get through this, Monica said, both of us. And we're going to come out the other side better than we were, stronger, clearer about what we deserve. What do we deserve? She smiled. Better than what we had, that's for damn sure. I drove back to the hotel feeling lighter than I had in days, weeks, maybe. The evidence folder was still building. The divorce was still pending. Sarah was still out there telling her lies to anyone who would listen. But for the first time since this started, I could see past the immediate crisis to something else. Something that looked almost like a future. Back in my hotel room, I opened my laptop and looked at flights to Tokyo. Prices, dates, itineraries. I didn't book anything, not yet. But I looked. I planned. I imagined myself walking through streets where nobody knew my name, where I was just another tourist with a camera and a guidebook and no history weighing me down. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Jessica, Sarah's friend. I know you don't know me, but I wanted to reach out. Sarah showed me the screenshots Melissa sent you, the texts between us. I'm sorry you had to see those. I'm sorry I didn't say anything sooner. I thought it wasn't my place. I was wrong. If you need me to testify or provide evidence or anything, I will. Sarah's been my friend for 10 years, but what she did to you was inexcusable." I stared at that message for a long time. Sarah's own friend offering to testify against her. The narrative was crumbling faster than Sarah could repair it. The lies were catching up to the liar. I typed back, "Thank you. I'll let my lawyer know you're willing to cooperate if needed. I appreciate your honesty." For what it's worth, I told her not to do it. The affair, the comment at the party, all of it. She didn't listen. She never listens when she thinks she's right. "I hope you find peace." "I'm getting there," I sent back. And I meant it. I set my phone aside, pulled up the Tokyo flight search again, and actually started filling out booking information. Not for next week, not even next month, but for late January, after the holidays, after the divorce would likely be finalized. A trip, a plan, a future that didn't include Sarah, didn't include our shared history, didn't include anything except possibility. I didn't hit purchase, not yet, but I saved the itinerary, made it real enough to believe in. Outside, Seattle sparkled in the November darkness. Cars moved through wet streets. Lights flickered in 1,000 windows, where people were living their own complicated lives, fighting their own battles, surviving their own betrayals. And in 13 days, the court records would become public. In 13 days, everyone who'd believed Sarah's narrative would see the evidence. In 13 days, the truth would stop being my private burden and become public record. I could wait 13 more days. I'd already waited 7 years to see who Sarah really was. 13 days was nothing. The 13 days before the court records went public felt like living in slow motion. Every hour stretched, every day dragged. And yet somehow time also moved too fast, hurtling toward a moment I both anticipated and dreaded. Sarah's social media campaign intensified. By day 16, she'd posted 9 times about surviving false accusations and standing in your truth when people try to destroy you. Each post garnered hundreds of supportive comments. Each one painted me as the villain, in a story where she was the innocent victim. I documented every single one. Screenshot, timestamp, sent to Jennifer. Evidence of her public narrative versus the private truth. "She's building a defense," Jennifer explained during our Thursday check-in. "If she can convince enough people that she's being wrongly accused, she thinks it'll create reasonable doubt when the evidence comes out. It's a common tactic. It rarely works. Why not? Because documentation beats perception. Photos beat testimonials. Hard evidence beats emotional appeals. She can have 10,000 people convinced you're lying, but when the court shows expense reports proving she charged hotel rooms to her company card on nights she claimed to be working late, when location data shows her phone and Marcus's phone in the same place at the same time repeatedly, none of those supporters matter. Facts are facts. When do the records go public? 20 days after service. That's next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Washington State uploads court documents to the public database at the end of business day. Anyone who knows where to look can access them. And people will look. Oh, they'll look, Jennifer said with grim satisfaction. Sarah's made this so public, so dramatic, that people are invested now. They want to know the truth, and on Tuesday, they'll get it. Saturday morning, I got a call from my father. "Your mother's upset," he said without preamble. My father never wasted words. Sarah called her, crying, saying you've cut her off completely, that you won't talk to her, that you're spreading lies about her. "They're not lies, Dad." "I know that. Your mother knows that too, deep down. But Sarah's very convincing. She told your mother that you've had some kind of breakdown, that you're not yourself, that she's worried about your mental health." I closed my eyes, pressed my fingers to the bridge of my nose. I'm fine. I'm clearer than I've been in years. I have a lawyer, I have evidence, and I'm handling this appropriately. "That's what I told your mother." A pause. "You want to tell me what really happened?" So I did. The abbreviated version: Sarah's comment at the party, Melissa's evidence, the 8-month affair, the divorce filing. My father listened without interrupting, the way he always did, absorbing information before forming conclusions. "Well," he said finally, "sounds like you're doing exactly what you should be doing. Your mother will come around once she sees the evidence. She just needs time to reconcile the Sarah she thought she knew with the Sarah who actually exists." "Thanks, Dad. You need anything? Money? Place to stay? You know your mother would kill me if I didn't offer." "I'm fine. Got a good hotel. Got a good lawyer. Got a plan. That's my boy. Keep me updated." After we hung up, I felt something shift. My father's approval shouldn't have mattered. I was 34 years old, perfectly capable of making my own decisions, but it did matter. Knowing he believed me, knowing he understood, knowing I had family support when Sarah was trying to turn everyone against me, it mattered. Sunday evening, Monica texted, "Marcus moved out. Finally. Took his stuff while I was at yoga. Left the keys on the counter. Didn't even leave a note. How are you feeling? Free, sad, angry, relieved. All of it at once, but mostly free." That's good. That's progress. My lawyer says his response to the divorce petition is due Tuesday. Same day as yours. Same day the records go public. We planned it that way. Coordinated timing for maximum impact. Maximum impact? When people see both divorces citing the same affair, with the same evidence, filed at the same time, there's no way to spin that. No way to claim it's a misunderstanding or vindictive exes making things up. It's corroborated truth. She was right. One divorce citing adultery could be dismissed as a jealous spouse making accusations. 2 divorces filed simultaneously with matching evidence and coordinating timelines. That was a pattern. That was proof. Monday morning I finally went back to work. Partially because I needed the normalcy. Partially because I needed to be visible, functional, clearly not having the breakdown Sarah claimed I was experiencing. My team greeted me carefully, like I was made of glass. Richard had obviously said something, probably just give him space. He's dealing with personal stuff, but the careful politeness in everyone's voices told me they'd heard rumors. I worked through the day with focused intensity, reviewed pull requests, fixed bugs, attended meetings, acted completely, boringly normal. Let my competence speak for itself. At lunch, a colleague named Brian stopped by my desk. "Hey man, I know this is weird, but I wanted you to know Sarah's been calling people, trying to get character references, asking people to vouch for her, say you've been unstable or controlling or whatever. Did she call you?" "Yeah. I told her I didn't feel comfortable getting involved in her personal life. She got pissed, said I was choosing sides." He shrugged. "Just thought you should know she's still working the narrative. Appreciate it. Won't matter in about 24 hours anyway." "Why's that?" "You'll see. Monday night I barely slept. I kept checking my phone, checking the time, counting down hours. At 3 a.m., I gave up, ordered room service coffee, sat by the window watching the city wake up. This was it. The moment everything changed. The moment Sarah's carefully constructed narrative collapsed under the weight of documented truth. I should have felt vindictive, triumphant, satisfied. Instead, I just felt tired, sad that it had come to this, sad that 7 years of marriage had ended not with honest conversation or mutual understanding, but with lawyers and evidence folders and public humiliation. But I hadn't chosen this path. Sarah had, the moment she'd started the affair. The moment she decided I was the reliable option she could betray without consequences. She'd made her choices. Now she'd live with them. Tuesday morning I worked from the hotel. Couldn't focus, couldn't think about anything except the clock ticking toward 5 p.m. Jennifer had texted at 9 a.m. Sarah's response to the petition was filed this morning. She's denying the affair, claiming all evidence was fabricated or misinterpreted, requesting full mediation and counseling before proceeding with divorce. Will that work? Not even remotely. She has to provide counter-evidence to dispute our claims. She has none. You can't argue with time-stamped photographs and company expense reports. She's bluffing, hoping you'll back down to avoid the public exposure. I'm not backing down. I know. That's why we're going to win. At 4:30 p.m., I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "You son of a bitch!" Sarah's voice, raw and furious. "You did this on purpose, timed it so everyone would see. You want to destroy me." "I want the truth to be known," I said calmly. "That's all." "The truth? You fabricated evidence. Those photos are photoshopped. Those expense reports are fake. You're trying to ruin my career, my reputation, everything I've built." "Sarah, listen to yourself. Do you actually believe that? Do you actually think I have the technical skill to Photoshop dozens of photos, forge company expense reports, hack cell phone location data, and fake audio recordings? Or is it possible, just possible, that you had an affair, and now you're facing consequences?" Silence on the line. I could hear her breathing, fast and angry. "I loved you," she said finally, and now her voice cracked. "I know I wasn't perfect. I know I hurt you, but I loved you, and you're destroying me." "You destroyed yourself," I said quietly, "the moment you chose to lie. The moment you chose Marcus over honesty. The moment you stood in Monica's living room and called me your backup plan in front of everyone we know. You did this, Sarah, not me. Please." Now she was crying, or pretending to cry. "Please, just withdraw the petition. We can work this out. We can go to therapy. I'll end things with Marcus. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't let those records go public. It's too late." "It's not too late. You can call your lawyer. You can ask her to seal the records. You can..." "Sarah, it's 4:47. In 13 minutes, those records become public. There's nothing I can do to stop it. And even if I could, I wouldn't." "You're cruel," she spat. "You're vindictive and cruel. And I was right about you. You never loved me. You never understood me. You're exactly what I said you were. The boring, safe option, who can't handle real passion, real honesty. Goodbye, Sarah." I hung up, blocked the number, set my phone face down on the desk. At 4:55, Monica called. "You ready?" she asked. "As ready as I'll get." "You?" Terrified, excited, nauseous, all of it. A pause. Marcus called me too, begging me not to go through with it, offering to give me whatever I want in the settlement if I just seal the records. "What did you tell him?" "That he should have thought about that before he fucked my husband's wife." I laughed. Couldn't help it. "You said that?" Word for word. Felt amazing. We stayed on the phone in silence, both of us watching our clocks tick toward 5. At 4:59, Monica said, "Here we go." At 5, my phone started buzzing. Text after text, call after call, notifications flooding in faster than I could read them. "Holy shit! Holy shit! I just saw the court documents, the evidence, all of it. How are you not losing your mind?" Brian from work. "Dude, Sarah's expense reports are on the King County website. Everyone's seeing this. Everyone knows. It's happening. Sarah's Instagram is getting flooded with comments. People are furious. She's deleting them as fast as they come in, but there are too many. My sister, Rachel. I'm looking at the court documents right now. That audio recording of her and Marcus? Jesus Christ. I'm so sorry. But also, I'm so proud of you for standing up for yourself." Unknown number. "This is Diane, Sarah's mother. I've seen the evidence. I don't know what to say except I'm sorry. I should have believed you. She lied to all of us. I sat there watching my phone light up like a Christmas tree. Message after message, call after call, the truth spreading through Seattle's tech community faster than any gossip network could have managed. At 5:17, Monica texted, "Sarah just deleted her Instagram. Whole account gone. Marcus deleted his Facebook. They're running scared." "Too late," I sent back. "Screenshots live forever." At 5:30, Jennifer called. "Well," she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. That went exactly as expected. I've received 4 calls in the last 30 minutes from people offering to provide additional testimony about Sarah and Marcus's affair. Co-workers who saw them together, friends who knew and said nothing. Even Marcus's secretary, who apparently booked hotel rooms for them on multiple occasions. So it's over? The hard part? Yes. Sarah can't credibly fight this anymore. Not with public records accessible to anyone with an internet connection. She'll either agree to mediation and settle, or she'll drag this out and spend tens of thousands in legal fees only to lose anyway. Most people choose option 1. How long? Settlement conference is scheduled for 3 weeks from now. If she's smart, she'll come to the table ready to negotiate. If she's stubborn, we'll see her in court in February. Either way, you're getting what you're entitled to. Thank you, I said. You made it easy. Clients who have evidence this comprehensive, we love those cases. Truth beats narrative every single time. After we hung up, I looked through the court documents myself. Everything was there, uploaded to the public database, available to anyone who searched King County Superior Court records for our names. The photos from Portland, the expense reports, the text message logs, the audio recording of Sarah and Marcus discussing how easy we were to lie to, the calendar entries showing their meetups, the location data from their phones. All of it. Public, permanent, undeniable. I thought about Sarah somewhere across the city, watching her carefully constructed narrative collapse in real time. Watching the comments flood in. Watching friends who defended her suddenly go quiet as they saw the evidence. Watching her reputation dissolve like sugar in water. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I just felt hollow. This was justice, yes. This was consequences. This was truth, winning over lies. But it was also the final, irrevocable death of something that had once been good, or that I'd thought was good, or that could have been good if she'd chosen differently. My phone rang, unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? This is Marcus. His voice was tight, controlled, furious. You've destroyed both our lives. You know that? You and Monica. You couldn't just handle this privately. You had to make it public. You had to ruin us. I didn't ruin you, I said. You ruined yourself. I just documented it. Sarah's career is over. Do you understand that? She can't work in this industry anymore. Everyone knows. Everyone's seen. That's not my problem. You're vindictive. You're Marcus. Listen very carefully. You fucked my wife for 8 months. You used company resources to facilitate your affair. You lied to my face, to Monica's face, to everyone who trusted you. And when you got caught, you tried to gaslight us into thinking we were crazy. So no, I'm not vindictive. I'm just done protecting you from the consequences of your own choices. I hung up, blocked that number too. Outside, the sun was setting over Elliott Bay, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The city looked beautiful, indifferent to the small human dramas playing out in its buildings and homes and hotel rooms. Somewhere, Sarah was living through the worst day of her life. Somewhere, Marcus was realizing that actions had consequences. Somewhere, Monica was probably watching the same sunset, feeling the same hollow satisfaction. And I was here, in a hotel room that cost $98 a night, watching my marriage officially end, not with tears or screaming, but with public court documents and a phone that wouldn't stop buzzing. The reliable option was no longer available, and the world was finally seeing why. The week after the court records went public was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. The phone calls and messages didn't stop, they intensified. People I hadn't talked to in years suddenly needed to tell me they'd always suspected something was wrong with Sarah. Colleagues wanted to express their support. Even strangers who'd somehow found my contact information reached out to share their own betrayal stories, as if my public documentation had given them permission to acknowledge their private pain. I responded to almost none of them. The only calls I took were from Jennifer, Monica, my family, and David. Everyone else got silence. I'd learned that lesson well. Most people weren't reaching out because they cared about me. They were reaching out because they wanted to be part of the drama, to say they'd talk to me, to collect details they could share with others. I wouldn't give them that satisfaction. Wednesday morning, Jennifer called with news. Sarah's lawyer contacted me. They want to discuss settlement terms. Off the record, informal conversation before the official conference. That was fast. They have no choice. Her lawyer knows they have no defense. The evidence is public, indisputable. Fighting this would cost her 6 figures in legal fees just to lose anyway. She's trying to salvage what she can. What are they offering? They want you to agree to seal the court records retroactively in exchange for a faster settlement timeline and her waiving any claim to spousal support. I almost laughed. They want me to protect her reputation after she spent 2 weeks destroying mine? Essentially, yes. I told them we'd consider it only if the asset division heavily favors you. They're preparing a formal offer. I don't want to seal the records, I said. The truth should stay public. I understand the impulse, but consider this strategically. If sealing the records gets you a significantly better financial settlement, it might be worth it. The people who matter have already seen the evidence. The damage to her reputation is done. Sealing it now doesn't undo that. She had a point. Screenshots lived forever. Everyone in Seattle's tech community had seen the evidence. Even if the official records were sealed, the truth was out there, multiplying across social media, shared in text messages, discussed in coffee shops and office break rooms. Let me think about it, I said. Take your time. We have leverage. They're desperate. We're not. After we hung up, I thought about what I wanted. Not what I deserved. I knew what I deserved, but what I actually wanted. Money, the house, revenge through continued public humiliation. None of it felt satisfying anymore. The hollow feeling from Tuesday hadn't gone away. If anything, it had deepened. The truth was public. Sarah was ruined, and I felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction. Just exhaustion and a growing desire to be done with all of it. Thursday afternoon, I met Monica for coffee. She looked different, lighter somehow, despite the dark circles under her eyes. Like she'd been carrying something heavy and finally set it down. Marcus's lawyer made the same offer, she said. Seal the records in exchange for favorable settlement terms. I'm thinking about taking it. Really? I got what I needed. Everyone knows the truth. His partners at the firm know. His clients know. He's already been asked to take a leave of absence while they investigate the situation, which is corporate speak for figuring out how to fire him without a lawsuit. She stirred her coffee. Absently. Keeping the records public doesn't hurt him any more than he's already hurt. But it does keep me tied to this. Every time someone searches my name, they find the divorce records. Every job interview, every new relationship, every fresh start, it's all shadowed by this. So you want to move on. I want to be free of him. Completely. And keeping those records public means I'm never free. I'm always Monica, the woman whose husband cheated with Sarah Castellano. I'm always defined by what he did to me. I understood that. I'd felt it already the way people looked at me now, with pity or fascination or morbid curiosity, the way conversations stopped when I entered a room, the way I'd become a story instead of a person. What are they offering you? I asked. Full ownership of the apartment, 70% of liquid assets, his entire retirement account, and he waives any claim to the business I started last year, the yoga studio I've been building. Combined, it's about $450,000 more than I'd get in a standard 50-50 split. That's significant. It's freedom, Monica said. It's enough money to move to Portland like I planned, start over, build something new. Not as Marcus's ex-wife, but just as Monica. You should take it, I said. You think so? I think we already won. The truth came out. Everyone knows what they did. Keeping the records public doesn't change that. It just keeps us anchored to them, to the worst thing that ever happened to us. And I don't want to be anchored anymore. Monica smiled. It was the first genuinely happy smile I'd seen from her. When did you get so wise? Last Tuesday at 5 p.m., I said, when I realized that revenge doesn't actually feel as good as you think it will. We talked for another hour about futures instead of pasts. Her plans for Portland, my idea about Japan, the strange relief of knowing exactly where you stood, even when where you stood was in ruins. When we parted ways, Monica hugged me tight. Thank you, she said, for being in this with me. I don't think I could have done it alone. You could have, I said, but I'm glad you didn't have to. Friday morning, I called Jennifer. I'll agree to seal the records, I said, but I want the house, 70% of liquid assets, her entire retirement account, and she pays my legal fees. And I want it all finalized within 30 days. That's aggressive. They're desperate. And I want this over. I'll present the offer. But you should know this is significantly more than a court would likely award, even with the adultery evidence she might not accept. Then we go to court and the records stay public. Her choice. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. You've changed since you first came to my office. Is that a good thing? It's a strong thing. Strength is usually good. Sarah's lawyer responded within 2 hours. They'd agree to everything except the timeline they needed 60 days to liquidate certain assets and complete the transfer. Jennifer countered with 45. They accepted. By Friday afternoon, we had a settlement agreement in principle, subject to formal documentation and signatures, but essentially done. My 7-year marriage would officially end in 45 days. The records would be sealed. Sarah would get to rebuild her reputation, or try to. And I'd walk away with enough assets to start over however I wanted. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt tired. Saturday morning, I finally responded to some of the messages that had been piling up. My mother, who cried and apologized for doubting me. My father, who said he was proud of how I'd handled everything. Rachel, who invited me to Thanksgiving next week and promised it would be drama-free. David, who just sent beer tonight. We met at a dive bar in Ballard, the kind of place with peanut shells on the floor and a jukebox that only played songs from before 1995. David was already there when I arrived, 2 beers waiting on a table in the corner. You look like shit, he said by way of greeting. Thanks. You too. Yeah, but I always look like shit. You usually look annoyingly put together. He pushed one of the beers toward me. So, you did it. Burned it all down. How's it feel? Weird, I admitted. I thought it would feel better. The truth coming out. Sarah facing consequences. Getting a favorable settlement. I thought I'd feel, I don't know, satisfied? Vindicated? But you don't. I just feel done. Like I used up all my anger and righteousness, and now there's nothing left except the desire to be somewhere else. Someone else. Anyone except the guy whose wife cheated on him with Marcus Chen. David nodded slowly. You know what your problem is? I'm sure you're about to tell me. You're still letting her define you. Even now, even after everything, you're letting what she did determine how you see yourself. The betrayed husband. The reliable option. The guy who got cheated on. He took a long drink. Fuck that. You're not any of those things. Then what am I? You're the guy who found out his wife was lying and didn't fall apart. The guy who documented evidence like a professional. The guy who hired a good lawyer and stood his ground. The guy who's about to walk away from a bad marriage with his dignity intact and enough money to start fresh. You're the guy who won, man. Own that. I sat with those words, turned them over in my mind, tested them for truth. Maybe he was right. Maybe I'd been so focused on what Sarah had done to me that I'd lost sight of what I'd done for myself. I'd left. I'd documented the truth. I'd refused to be gaslit. I'd protected my interests. I'd stood up for myself in ways I'd never done before. That was worth something. That was worth a lot. When do you leave for Tokyo? David asked. How did you know about Tokyo? Rachel told me. Said you were planning a trip. I think it's a great idea. I haven't booked it yet. Waiting for the divorce to finalize. Don't wait, David said. Book it now. Give yourself something to look forward to. Something that has nothing to do with Sarah, or divorce lawyers, or sealed court records. Just you and a plane ticket and a city you've never seen. He was right. I'd been waiting for closure, for the dust to settle, for the perfect moment to start my new life. But Monica had been right too. The dust never fully settles. There's always another thing to resolve, another loose end to tie up, another reason to delay. I pulled out my phone right there in the bar and booked the flight. January 15th to Tokyo, 2 weeks. Round trip, but with flexible return date in case I wanted to stay longer. Done, I said, showing David the confirmation email. There you go. First decision of your new life that has nothing to do with her. We drank our beers and talked about normal things. His job, his girlfriend, the Seahawks' chances in the playoffs. The kind of mundane conversation that feels profound when you've spent weeks living in crisis mode. Around 10, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, then decided to check. It was from Sarah. I know you probably won't read this. I know you've blocked my other numbers, but I needed to say I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry for what I did. You deserved better. You deserved honesty and loyalty and someone who chose you first. I was weak and selfish, and I hurt you in ways I can never take back. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I know what I did was wrong, and I'm sorry. I stared at that message for a long time. It was probably the most honest thing Sarah had said to me in years, maybe ever. No justifications, no deflection, no blaming me for being boring or emotionally unavailable or any of the other excuses she'd tried. Just, I was wrong. I'm sorry. David watched me reading. Her? Yeah. What'd she want? To apologize, apparently. Actually apologize. Not the fake kind, where she blames me while saying sorry. You going to respond? I thought about it. Part of me wanted to say something gracious and forgiving. Wanted to be the bigger person who accepted her apology and wished her well. But another part of me, the part that had spent a week watching her try to destroy my reputation, the part that remembered her laughing in Monica's living room while she called me her backup plan, the part that had listened to the audio recording of her telling Marcus how easy I was to lie to that part, didn't want to give her the satisfaction of a response. Silence was power. Silence was closure. Silence was me moving on while she stayed stuck in the wreckage of what she'd destroyed. I deleted the message, blocked the number. Nothing to say, I told David. She made her choices. Now she gets to live with them. Same as me. We left the bar around midnight. The city was quiet, cold, the streets slick with rain that had started while we were inside. David headed south to his apartment in Columbia City. I headed north to my hotel on Broadway. But I didn't go straight there. Instead, I drove to the house. Our house. The one Sarah was still living in. The one I'd be signing over to her in 45 days as part of the settlement. I parked across the street and looked at it. Lights were on in the living room. I could see shadows moving behind the curtains. Sarah, probably pacing, probably still trying to control the narrative, probably texting friends to explain that my acceptance of her apology proved she was right to apologize. Or maybe not. Maybe she was just sitting there, alone, finally understanding what she'd lost. I'd bought that house, imagining a future. Kids, maybe. Holidays. Growing old together. Building something permanent and real. None of that had happened. None of that would happen now. But something else would. Something I couldn't quite see yet, but could feel approaching. A future that was mine alone, undefined by compromise or disappointment, or being someone's second choice. I started the car and drove away without looking back. At the hotel, I opened my laptop and started researching Tokyo. Neighborhoods to stay in, temples to visit, restaurants that served sushi at 6 a.m. for the fish market workers. I made lists and bookmarked websites and planned an itinerary that I'd probably ignore once I got there. But planning it felt good. Felt like agency. Felt like I was the author of my own story again, instead of a character in someone else's drama. Around 2 in the morning, my phone buzzed one more time. I signed the settlement offer. It's done. I'm free. Congratulations. How does it feel? Like I can finally breathe again. Like I've been holding my breath for months and just now remembered how to exhale. I signed mine too. 45 days and it's official. Then, we both survived. We both made it through. We did. What are you going to do now? Move to Portland next month. Open my yoga studio. Start over somewhere nobody knows my story. What about you? Tokyo in January. And after that? I don't know yet, but I'm okay with not knowing. That's growth, she sent back. The old you would have needed a plan. She was right. The old me would have mapped everything out, would have needed certainty and structure and a clear path forward. The old me was the reliable option who planned for every contingency and never took risks. This version of me was learning to be comfortable with uncertainty, with possibility, with the idea that maybe the best stories are the ones you don't plan out in advance. I set my phone aside, turned off the lights, and lay in the dark listening to the city sounds outside my window. Car engines, distant sirens, the hum of the heating system, the small sounds of the world continuing to exist. 45 days until the divorce was final. 59 days until Tokyo, and then the rest of my life, whatever that would be. The reliable option was no longer available, but someone new was emerging. Someone stronger, more certain, less apologetic for taking up space in the world. I fell asleep thinking about cherry blossoms and bullet trains and streets where nobody would know my name, where I could be anyone, where I could finally be myself. Thanksgiving arrived with the kind of crisp, clear cold that makes Seattle feel almost festive. Rachel had invited me to her place in Wallingford. Her husband Mark, and a handful of their friends who didn't have family in the area. Low-key, she'd promised. No one's going to ask about the divorce unless you bring it up first. I almost didn't go. The idea of sitting around a table pretending to be grateful while my life was still in transition felt performative and exhausting. But Rachel had been texting me every day, checking in, making sure I was eating and sleeping and not spiraling. I owed her this. Her apartment smelled like roasted turkey and homemade cranberry sauce when I arrived. Mark greeted me at the door with a beer and a handshake. No awkward questions, no pitying looks. Just, good to see you, man. Rachel's been worried. I'm okay, I said. Better than okay, actually. And I meant it. Something had shifted in the past week. The hollow feeling that had plagued me since the court records went public was slowly being replaced by something else. Not quite happiness, it was too soon for that, but a sense of possibility, of forward momentum. Rachel's friends were easy company. A couple who taught at the University of Washington, a software engineer who worked at Amazon, a woman named Claire who ran a nonprofit focused on food insecurity. They asked what I did for work, where I grew up, normal getting-to-know-you questions that had nothing to do with divorce or betrayal or public court records. It was refreshing to be treated like a person instead of a scandal. Halfway through dinner, Claire mentioned she was planning a trip to Japan in the spring. I've always wanted to go during cherry blossom season, she said. Though apparently that's when it's most crowded. I'm going in January, I found myself saying. Booked the flight last week, 2 weeks in Tokyo, and then wherever else feels right. Solo trip? She asked. Yeah, first time traveling alone internationally. That's brave. Or stupid, I said. Haven't decided which yet. No, it's definitely brave, Rachel interjected. My brother's been playing it safe his whole life. This is him finally taking a risk. She said it affectionately, but it stung a little. Because she was right. I had played it safe. Safe job, safe investments, safe marriage to a woman who seemed like the responsible choice. And where had that gotten me? Playing it safe isn't always wrong, Mark said, defending me. Safe is what keeps you alive sometimes. Safe is what keeps you existing, I corrected. Not the same as living. The table went quiet for a moment. Then Claire raised her wine glass. To not just existing, to actually living. Everyone drank to that. After dinner, I helped Rachel clean up, while everyone else moved to the living room for a movie. She was scrubbing a roasting pan, not looking at me, when she said, Mom told me she talked to you. Said you sounded good. I am good. She feels terrible about believing Sarah at first. I know. I told her it's fine. Sarah's convincing. She always has been. Rachel stopped scrubbing. Can I ask you something? And you don't have to answer if you don't want to. Go ahead. Do you miss her? Not the cheating, lying version, but the version you thought she was. The version you married. I thought about that while drawing a serving platter. Did I miss the Sarah I'd thought I knew? The woman who laughed at my jokes and planned weekend hikes and talked about the future like it was something we were building together? Sometimes, I admitted. But then I wonder if that version ever really existed, or if I just invented her because I wanted to believe someone could love me that way. Someone will love you that way, Rachel said firmly. Someone who actually means it. Who chooses you first, not as the backup plan. Maybe. Not really thinking about that right now, though. Right now, I'm just thinking about getting through the next 45 days and then getting on a plane. That's healthy, she said. Taking time for yourself. Figuring out who you are without her. We finished the dishes in comfortable silence. Through the doorway, I could hear laughter from the living room. The opening credits of whatever movie they'd chosen. Normal sounds. Normal people. Having a normal holiday. I'd forgotten what normal felt like. The next week blurred together in a strange mix of productivity and waiting. I went back to work full-time, threw myself into a project refactoring our authentication system, worked late nights not because I had to, but because the hotel room felt too quiet and work felt like progress. Jennifer sent regular updates. The settlement paperwork was being drafted. Sarah's lawyer was cooperating. Everything was moving smoothly toward finalization. On Monday, I got an email from Sarah's mother, Diane. I know we're not family anymore, or won't be soon. But I wanted you to know that I confronted Sarah about everything. She admitted it all. The affair, the lies, everything. She's seeing a therapist now. I think she's finally understanding what she destroyed. I'm not asking you to forgive her. I'm not even asking you to respond to this. I just wanted you to know that some of us see what really happened, and we're sorry you were hurt by our daughter. You were a good husband to her, better than she deserved. I hope you find happiness. I read it 3 times, then filed it away in a folder I'd created called Closure. I didn't respond. What would I say? Thank you for raising a daughter who betrayed me? I appreciate your belated acknowledgement of my worth. Nothing I could say would change anything, but I kept the email. Somehow it mattered that at least one person from Sarah's family saw the truth, acknowledged it, apologized for it. Wednesday morning, I was in a meeting when my phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. Thought you should know. Sarah resigned from her position today, effective immediately. Word is, she couldn't handle the whispers and the looks. She's moving back to California to stay with family. I excused myself from the meeting and called Monica. Did you hear? I asked. When she picked up, about Sarah leaving? Yeah, Melissa told me. Marcus got fired yesterday. They called it mutual agreement to part ways, but everyone knows he was pushed out. How do you feel about that? Honestly, nothing. I thought I'd feel satisfied or vindicated or something, but it's just nothing. They made their choices. Now, they're living with consequences. I'm done spending energy caring about what happens to them. Same, I said. It's weird, right? You spend all this time angry and hurt and wanting them to suffer, and then they do suffer, and you just feel empty. Not empty. Monica corrected. Free. There's a difference. We're free of them. Free of the anger. Free of the need for revenge. That's not emptiness. That's liberation. She was right. I'd been mistaking the absence of anger for emptiness. But it wasn't empty, it was clear. Clean. Like a room after you've finally finished packing up someone else's belongings and can see the space for what it is. When do you leave for Portland, I asked. December 15th. Moving truck's already booked. I signed a lease on a studio space for the yoga business. It's really happening. That's amazing. I'm happy for you. You should come visit sometime. After you get back from Japan. Portland's nice. Good food scene. Weird in a good way. I might do that, I said. And I meant it. Friday afternoon, 3 weeks before the divorce would be finalized, Sarah called from yet another new number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Maybe curiosity, maybe the sense that this would be the last time we'd ever speak. Hello? Thank you for answering. Her voice was small, defeated, nothing like the confident, sharp-edged Sarah from Monica's party. I know you don't want to talk to me. I know you've moved on, but I needed to tell you something. What? I'm leaving Seattle, moving back to Sacramento to stay with my parents. I can't stay here anymore. Everyone knows. Everywhere I go, people whisper. My career is over. My reputation is destroyed. Everything I built here is gone. I waited. There had to be more. Sarah didn't call just to tell me she was leaving. I know you think I'm a terrible person, she continued. And you're right, I am. What I did to you was inexcusable. But I need you to understand something. I never meant to hurt you. I know that sounds insane given everything, but it's true. I was selfish and weak, and I made terrible choices, but I never wanted to destroy you. Just yourself, I said. Yeah, just myself. A bitter laugh. I thought I could have both. The stability you gave me and the excitement Marcus gave me. I thought I was smart enough to keep both worlds separate. I was an idiot. Was it worth it? I asked. All of it. The affair. The lies. Was he worth losing everything? Silence on the other end. I could hear her breathing, thinking, trying to find an honest answer. No, she said finally. It wasn't worth it. It was never worth it. Marcus was he was an escape from the boring parts of marriage, from responsibility, from being an adult. And I told myself it was passion, but it wasn't. It was just cowardice dressed up as romance. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know. Because in all the years we were together, I never gave you honesty. And now that it's too late, now that I've lost you, I want you to at least have that. The truth. No games, no manipulation, just the truth. I sat with that. Thought about whether the truth mattered now, whether it changed anything. It didn't, but somehow it still helped. I'm sorry, Sarah said, her voice breaking. I'm so fucking sorry. You were good to me. You were loyal and kind and stable and everything a husband should be. And I threw it away because I was too immature to appreciate what I had. I know, I said quietly. I forgive you. And I meant it. Not because she deserved forgiveness, she probably didn't, but because carrying anger was exhausting, and I was done being exhausted. Forgiveness wasn't for her, it was for me. She started crying. Real crying. Not the manipulative kind. I don't deserve that. Probably not. But I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it so I can move on without carrying you with me. Are you happy? She asked through tears. Without me, are you happy? I thought about my hotel room with the view of the water. My flight to Tokyo printed out and tacked to the wall. The settlement agreement that would give me enough money to start fresh. The absence of lies and betrayal and walking on eggshells around someone's moods. I'm getting there, I said. I think I will be. Good. You deserve to be happy. You deserve someone who chooses you first, who sees how incredible you are. So do you, I said. And I meant that too. You deserve to figure out who you are without needing validation from men, without needing to be the most desired person in the room. You deserve to be happy with yourself. I don't know how to do that. Therapy helps. So does time. So does being alone until you figure out who you actually are instead of who you think people want you to be. We talked for a few more minutes. Not about the divorce or the affair or the anger, just about life. She was going to live with her parents until she figured out next steps. Maybe go back to school. Maybe try a different career path. I told her about Tokyo, about wanting to travel more, about the freedom of not knowing what came next. When we finally said goodbye, it felt final in a way that signing papers wouldn't. This was the real ending. Not angry or bitter, just sad and honest and done. Take care of yourself, she said. You too. I hung up and sat there for a long time, phone in my hand, watching the last light fade from the sky. Something had shifted. Some weight I'd been carrying since that night at Monica's party had finally lifted. Sarah was just a person now, not a villain, not a symbol of my failures. Just a flawed person who'd made terrible choices and was now living with consequences. I could live with that. That evening, I went for a long walk through the city, past Pike Place Market, where tourists took selfies with the fish throwers, through Belltown, where restaurants were filling up with the Friday night crowd, along the waterfront, where ferries moved through the darkness, their lights reflecting off black water. Seattle looked different now. Not like a city I'd failed in, but like a city I'd survived in. A place where I'd learned hard lessons and come out stronger. I thought about staying after the divorce, finding a new apartment, not a hotel room, building a life here that had nothing to do with Sarah or our marriage or the person I'd been when I was trying to be the reliable option. But I also thought about leaving. Not permanently, but for a while. Tokyo, in January, then maybe other places. Europe, in the spring. Southeast Asia, in the summer. Becoming the kind of person who traveled light and made decisions based on curiosity instead of fear. Both futures felt possible. Both felt right. I'd spent so long trying to plan everything, to be certain, to make the safe choice. Maybe it was okay to not know, to make decisions as they came, to trust that I'd figure it out. My phone buzzed. Beer? Always, I sent back. We met at the same dive bar in Ballard. David was already there, 2 beers waiting. You look different, he said as I sat down. Different how? Less haunted? More? I don't know. Present? Like you're actually here instead of just going through the motions? Sarah called today. We talked, really talked, not just accusations and anger. How was that? Sad, but good. Like closing a door that should have been closed a long time ago. David nodded. 3 more weeks and it's official? 3 weeks. Then I'm legally single again. Then Tokyo. You nervous? About the trip? Terrified, I admitted. I've never traveled alone internationally. Don't speak Japanese. Don't know anyone there. It's completely outside my comfort zone. That's exactly why you should do it. That's what I keep telling myself. We drank our beers and watched a basketball game on the TV above the bar. Talked about nothing important. Enjoyed the comfortable silence of old friendship. Around midnight, walking back to my car, I looked up at the Seattle skyline against the night sky and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Excited. Not about Sarah leaving or the settlement or any of the ending pieces, but about the beginning pieces. The parts that hadn't been written yet. 3 more weeks until the divorce was final. 5 more weeks until Tokyo. And then the rest of my life, whatever shape it would take. The reliable option was gone, but something better was emerging. Someone who chose himself first. Someone who wasn't afraid to be alone. Someone who was finally free. The divorce was finalized on December 20th. No ceremony, no drama, just Jennifer's email with a PDF attachment. Congratulations, you're officially single. I was in a coffee shop when I got it. The same Brennan's, where Sarah and I had met 7 years ago, where Melissa had given me the evidence, where so much had ended and begun. I didn't cry, didn't celebrate, just sat there with my coffee, watching the city move past the window, feeling the weight of 7 years dissolve into paperwork and signatures. It was done. Sarah was in Sacramento. Marcus was unemployed. Monica was in Portland, building her yoga studio. And I was here, 26 days from Tokyo, finally understanding what freedom actually meant. Not the absence of Sarah, the presence of myself. Christmas came and went quietly. Dinner with Rachel and Mark, calls with my parents, a bottle of good wine in my new apartment, not a hotel anymore, but a month-to-month lease in Capitol Hill with minimal furniture and maximum possibility. I spent New Year's Eve alone, watching fireworks from my window, thinking about the year that had passed, the betrayal, the evidence, the divorce, the slow, painful process of becoming someone new. At midnight, I toasted to myself, to survival, to clarity, to the understanding that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing that could have happened. January 15th arrived cold and clear. I packed light. One suitcase, one backpack. Everything I needed to disappear into a foreign city and find out who I was when no one was watching. At the airport, standing in the security line, I thought about Sarah's question. Are you happy? I still didn't know. But I was curious, excited, open to whatever came next. The plane took off at 1:45 p.m., climbing through clouds until Seattle disappeared below me. I watched the city shrink, the water, the mountains, the tiny buildings where my old life had existed. Somewhere down there was the house I'd signed over to Sarah, the office where I'd worked during my marriage, the coffee shop where we'd met, all of it getting smaller, more distant, less important. I turned away from the window, pulled out my book, and felt something settle in my chest. Peace. Not the peace of resolution, or closure, or revenge, satisfied. The peace of knowing I'd stood up for myself, of refusing to be the reliable option anymore, of choosing my own story instead of accepting the role someone else had written for me. 13 hours to Tokyo, 13 hours between who I'd been and who I might become. I opened my book and started reading. The reliable option was no longer available, but the adventure was just beginning.